Hey everybody, this is Let's Talk Locking with Little B and Kaistar. Joining us today is Hurricane and Tosh. Thank you guys for joining us. Just little bits of quick things for the podcast. This is our second episode that we're doing on YouTube and Twitch. So please follow us, like, subscribe. It really helps us out. Making a really big push for this podcast. There's been a lot of support. Um, it helps to have you guys share and like and do all that stuff. It keeps us driven. We have a lot of lofty goals, and it helps for every person that like does all of that for us. We have the Discord, so please come join us if you would like to join the chat. And again, we're live on YouTube and Twitch now. That is where we're going to be pushing our priority for where we put the live stream. We do have it on Instagram Live as well, but we're trying to move away from that, even though most of our audience and our guest audiences are from Instagram, because Instagram controls our lives at this point. Yeah. But yeah, I think we're ready to get into it. This is a continuation of our conversation that me and Kaistar had last week about the push for calling it Campbell locking, as it always has been. And Hurricane is the one that started with the post. Tosh is the one that we always go to be like, is this okay? But the reason that we have this podcast and we're doing this and having this conversation is that we take away the responsibility of that from Tosh, and that we all have a place to be able to speak up on it, because all of our stories, all of our understandings, and all of our resources individually matter to this conversation. So Tosh has done so much work for us. Let's try to take some of that off her hands, if that's cool. But yeah, thank you for joining us. We did have some questions, but I saw that you guys did watch the previous episode. Did you guys have any thoughts or anything that you would like to add? Let's try to take some of that off her hands. Sorry, I have someone. Oh, that's my fault.
No, it looks like Hurricane's audio is echoing through the
I'm
speaker.
echoing.
Oh, you're echoing?
Yes.
Oh, what
Did you
happened?
guys have any
One
thoughts or
second.
anything that you would like to add? Okay,
Hi.
sorry about that. Go for it. Sorry, yeah, a little bit technical thing.
A little bit of technical stuff. All right.
Yeah, yeah, I guess just before, I don't really have too many questions. There was a couple in the Discord, specifically for you guys, but was there anything that you guys wanted to add on, or just even just to speak on when it comes to the topic of Campbell locking?
Okay, I can start
Sure.
quickly. For me, it's not about, removing or penalizing or policing anyone that wants to still call it locking. I mean, it's been there forever. It's more like what I wrote about reclaiming the original term that, we owe it to Don. That was his last wish. From what I heard, is the wish before he died that the only regret he had was not having his name on the dance anymore. So for me, I did ask Don a long time ago if he wanted to just for us to switch it back, and even Marianne, like just call it the Campbell Lock. And at the time, Don was still alive, so we just like there wasn't a need for it yet. I think Sonny Craver was still there, so there was no need. But and Don, just being who Don is, always welcoming and open arms to anyone. He didn't want to create more issues, even though at the heart of his soul was screaming for it at the time. But he was just being like welcoming, as he was always with every branches of or sub branches of what people call locking, right? So for me, it's only natural that we do that. To me, that's the main topic. It doesn't penalize anyone, and like what you guys said in your your podcast, why not? To me, what that's like, why not? Right? Like, what does it take away? It doesn't take away anything from anyone. So that's what I want to say, most likely. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me as well, it really doesn't take away from anyone, and it doesn't take away from the history. It doesn't take away from what anyone went, what anyone happening was within their own history. You know, I'm very careful about saying that because they're not the history.
Mm-hmm.
Done is the history. So it doesn't take away from anyone that had their happening
Mm-hmm.
within the history, you know? And their service is still their service. It happened. Their contribution is still their contribution. It happened. It's the name that never happened. So something was taken away from Don, actually, not from anyone. So it's almost like, not almost, it is correcting history, you know? And correcting history doesn't take anything away from any, and it doesn't take anything away from their own history because that happened for them. The only person that got something taken away was Don. So it's like the same question of why not? It's not policing anybody. You make your own choices. But what is the choice that is true? And what is the choice that is actually correct? It should be easy, you know? It's not about policing, it's about make it easy,
Yeah.
you
Uh,
know? That's
the
it.
the big thing that we were pushing is that we want to make sure that it is known, not to like, not to say that we're trying to change the past, but we're trying to pave a way for a better future, right? That the way that we've been calling it locking, without spreading the knowledge that the source was Dawn. And from the
Mhm.
source, there's all these other people that had such an impact on the dance, on the style, on the genre. And connecting to the source doesn't take away the other people that impacted it. We're just trying to trace it back to this, and it goes to two people who impacted it, and then to the future, right? Because we don't want to continue seeing it. Our dance is so young still, and it's gonna like thrive and grow, but we don't want to see it grow in a way where we don't tap back to the source. So it really helps to have that input from you guys. It is such an interesting topic because
Mhm.
I know when I talk to you, Tosh, and Alan, like, this all is kind of like a given when we talk to each other. It is a
Mm-hmm.
given when we teach our classes. So I know, like, Tosh, when you hear this, you're just like, I've already been saying all this. Like, Dawn was there too at camp. When I'm talking about all of this, I'm spreading it to the students. It's nothing
Mm-hmm.
unusual to you. But wasn't it so surprising to see so many people admitting they didn't know that this was actually a part of the history? That that's what Dawn went through. That's why cam locking turned into locking, and it wasn't just in America or just like in one place of the world. It was everywhere. So many people saying, "Thank you. I really learned something." It really astounded me, but in a great way because everyone took it with like really good arms of like, "I didn't know that. Thank you. I will try to push forward."
I
Absolutely.
really believe that what happened is with the advance of technology that people like took screenshot, then people translated what Alain wrote, and then they found more passages and then they went to dig. But I saw a lot of people just translating it, right? Whereas when we were teaching, and me being all over the world, I teach these things, right? But I remember one of my students said, "Yeah, but Tash, like when you were teaching, the translator did not translate properly. So we didn't understand a lot of the parts. And it's true
Mhm.
because they're limited. A lot of the people that translate, if you don't speak the language, you don't know about the culture, and you're just translating and you don't even come from the art form of the Campbell Lock. Already, I'm saying, I'm telling the story about Don Campbell. Half of it is gone. Like they don't even like the nuances, or it's very, very specific sometimes in the way that we talk about, especially with the American language. We use like anglicism, we use like metaphors, we use all these things that people can't understand because it's cultural. So the fact that it was written, and I know my daughter, when she does her homework, she gets her phone and she gets to translate, and then as it's happening, she can translate. And I was like, that was not a possibility many years ago. So now there is no excuses not to do the work and not to really like study. But there are people that will keep teaching the class without, telling the story, or just skimming through the story, right? And or teach just choreography classes, or just like combo classes. So now people have no more choice. They don't have a choice. It's like, okay, now this is the topic. Let's talk about it. And some of them are surprised, which is, I was surprised that people were surprised just as same as you. I was like, wow. But for us, it's not. Most people in America or in Canada, or people that speak English, that was not a surprise for them. They know this story already.
Absolutely. And I'll say this as well when it comes to teaching. I teach a regular class, right? So I'm not telling the history every class,
Mm,
but monthly I do say it.
mm,
Monthly I do say it. But when I'm not but and when I teach workshops, that is every workshop. It is my duty to say it because the place of a workshop, that means this is a lot of people's first, and I won't say last time, but I don't know how long time
mhm,
that they're gonna get to meet me again, or I'm gonna get to meet them again, or we'll get to share to be in the same space again. But my regular class, there will be some regulars
mhm,
as well as newcomers,
mhm,
right? I'm not going to catch every newcomer, but I will always be a reminder monthly. And then
mhm,
there will always be someone new in that class anyway, which it will be the right time for them to get the information. That's why they're in here, you know? So it is our duty to continue to educate, especially now with source being less limited.
mm,
And I was saying too, like for us taking up the mantle to speak on this, and I know Unorthodox is definitely this way. We don't care if you remember our face, our name, our brand. We gain nothing from doing this
Mhm.
on a personal level, on a monetary gain. None of that is anywhere in our thoughts, in our intentions. Like for us, we want to make it very clear that our intention is to pay back and make sure that we
Mhm.
are highlighting the source of this dance. Again, like this doesn't change the way that we teach our classes, how we advertise ourselves, and what we think the dance is, and any of that. We gain nothing. Again, nothing changes for us. And like Tosh is like the biggest advocator of that. She's been teaching it this way for so long.
Mhm.
We did have a question um, from Johnny Quest from Montreal. He's on the topic of locking, the Campbell locking name switch. As we attempt to change the commonly used name to Campbell locking, what can we learn from other dance styles that have struggled to replace their popular name with the correct name? An example is breakdancing into breaking. And like, what challenges will we face along the way? What mistakes and victories should we try to avoid or emulate from other dance styles? Do you guys have any thoughts on that one?
Geez, Johnny, that's packed. I don't know, Star, do you have any thoughts on that too?
I would say, like personally, I think it's really important that we as a community gel behind the usage of the Campbell Lock because one, strength in numbers, and then two, again, it's not about trying to hit people over the head with the name change. You know, the reclaiming part is for the sake of and for the memory of Dawn. You know, like you have like, and if we're thinking about it, it is the actual history. Like when you look at what Campbell locking was
Mm.
in its very inception, it was the Campbell lock all the way through, and there is a book that I came across recently that I'd read a long time ago. I don't agree with all the stuff that's in there, but there is a correct historical record of, hey, in the beginning it was called the Camelot. People misheard it and called it the Camelot or the Camelot. And so that's the actual history. So if we want to continue to use the abbreviated version, then you're more than welcome to do that. But again, it's the whole point of trying to rally behind using the name the Campbell Lock is to give back to Don in some way or another. So if we want to make that change, if we want to have that stuff happen, then we have to be a community about it. We have to talk to people, and we have to educate. We have to share. We have to come together on stuff. Like the whole point isn't for this to be a divisive thing.
Hmm.
It have to be community.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, I think that, well, I know a lot of the terms that we preserve, let's say, going back to break dance, right? It's emotionally connected to people that have, a connection to that word because they've used it for decades, right? And sometimes it's more about the ignorance of the original term, either b-boying, b-girling, breaking, and people have this emotional attachment to, well, in my city we called it breakdance, right? And it was the difference between the Campbell lock and breakdance is a distortion. It's the media transforming terms. It's like the ignorance or the popularity of something new creating these terms because it is a dance, but at the time everything was kind of like a melting pot of different styles. Like people were doing locking and popping and people are breaking, and then you know the media does not know how to call it. So I mean, not to validate what the Olympics are doing, but if the Olympics changed it back to breaking, and then there was people going, I don't know why they call it breaking. Like to me, it's break dance or it's b-boy or b-girl. And I'm like, ugh, again, it's an emotional attachment to not wanting to let go of something of the past that was a distortion. Now, the Campbell lock is not a distortion. That's the original term. So we're not fighting with something that is, you know, uh, um, uh, something we made up. We're just literally saying that's a fact. You read it in a book. I've heard countless times Demita, Scooby, Alpha say Camelot. There's even a video of Elroy Skiffer who's saying the Camelot, right? And we know that were all these dramas and all these issues with a lot of the elders, talking about or making, like claims, right? But at the same time, everybody knows it was the Camelot first, right? And there are there are like pockets of people that just like the term breakdance became popular, only heard the term locking, without no. And I think that that's what Dawn was the saddest about, is just like people don't know who I am, people don't invite me. So Dawn was not invited to many countries because nobody told Dawn's story. Nobody told the Campbell lock. Don Campbell lock. Campbell is the creator. While oftentimes Greg was invited because he was the most active and he had that in his name. So imagine that if Greg has it in his name and Demina named Greg after Don Campbell Lock Jr., like you can't debate that it was called locking first, like to me it's like you see the lineage already in the passing of the name, right? So for me, it's like I'm not trying to fight something that is, an illusion or is untrue. It's like just the fact it's true. Why fight it, right?
Mhm. I love I love that it's not just fact, it's true.
Mm,
Because a lot of time there's so much facts
mm,
that it blinds the truth. Everyone has their own facts. Everyone has a lot of facts. But the
mm-hmm.
fact, the truth is,
The truth
Don
is,
Campbell created this dance, and that's why it's called the Campbell Lock, because his friend was saying, "Go ahead, Don, do the Campbell Lock."
mm-hmm,
That's how the dance got the name.
mm-hmm,
He didn't name it, but his name is Campbell, and he was doing the lock. So the name of the dance is Campbell Lock. And that's why even with people's name, you'd never have to change your name because if his name is Campbell Lock, then there can be a hurricane lock. There can be a fire lock. There can be a little E lock. There can be, you know,
mm-hmm,
because the dance is the lock. But the
mm-hmm,
name of the dance is Campbell Lock
mm-hmm,
because that's who created the dance. It doesn't take anything away from anyone or any history away from anyone. It only tells the truth. And what happened is when the truth is, then you are not even forced to be truth. You become truth once you accept the truth. So now the dance actually grows and expand how it should because now all the excuses and alibis are gone.
mm-hmm,
Locking is an excuse and an alibi. That's why other names can be created because then you're saying Camelot and locking is different when it's not. Someone else's limitations become the definition of locking. So now we all have to abide by it. But when you go back to the truth, which is Campbell locking, Don's truth is to dance and stop and dance and stop. And that's why he taught his classes like that. He would just say, okay, everybody dance. Now stop. Now dance. Now stop. That's locking.
mm-hmm,
That's the Campbell locking. That's the lock. And as you can see, I'm still correcting my own language. I'm still calling it locking here and there. It's gonna take work, and I want to do that work.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But that's what makes it different for me because I always desire to do the work,
Yeah.
and it never has to be hard. That's why Little B can easily say that we don't get nothing from this because my work is the gift. It's not the what I get in return. So the what I get in return does not matter for me. Like if I love something, I want to expand whatever it is. I am like that thing is the gift for me. It's not what I give it that's the gift. It is already the gift for me. So that's why I will never want and need anything from it. It has already given me everything. So I have nothing to hold on to. So that's why I can see the truth constantly. Because every time someone is trying to give me something for it or for me to agree with them, I don't need it. I don't need it. The dance already gave me the best gift was to dance. I don't need anything else. So I have nothing to hold on to or for. So it's easy for me to say, hey, the dance is called Himbalok. Let's honor done by going back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, what I wrote is literally on Tasha's page, you know, it's on her program's page. Not exactly the words, but it's the same thing, you know? It's her words and then it's my words now. We both are saying the same exact thing. And the thing is, she's been saying it forever. But Hurricane, everybody knows somehow. That's not my goal, but my desire was to be known because of exactly what I'm doing now,
Mm.
not to be known for anything else. That was my alibi to get amazing because not just I already knew I was. So it's easy for me to say, let's just do that because Maybe because me, I got everything I want, which was to dance. But people, maybe they just want to have something. So they need to make an excuse and alibi for it to stay away. And that's not saying they're wrong for that. I get it. This life is interesting. We all desire something. Me, what I desired was to dance. I guess that was something easy that I asked for. So we don't need anything to hold on. Why do I need to hold on to something? Just tell the truth. And that's it.
Beautifully shared, man. Like, this is something that I know you for and I hear about from you directly all the time. Something that drives me up the wall is when people assume otherwise.
Mm.
That we're doing this dance, that we're renaming it because we benefit from it.
Mhm.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't want to like say that like I'm looking down on people, but like again, it's because I know you personally, and like me, Tosh, and Kai Star, like we know your story, we know what you're about. So when people get to talk to you, they can feel it, hear it, right? It's so it's so different than what people see when you dance, right? Because once you understand that you're not about your own self gain and benefit, like the dance is beautiful because you just know for yourself, I just want to dance.
Mhm.
I love that. And I hope that people really hear this aspect of you because it's I can't imagine you being shady and trying to make money like that. You know what I mean? Like, no, so to take Johnny had another question, which I think will be a little bit more fun to step away
Mm.
from the aspect of the name for a bit. Um, so Johnny asks, "What are your thoughts on the importance of hambone to the foundation of cambalocking? It feels like you see the lockers, the cambalok dancers, use it fairly often, but very little importance is placed on it in teaching nowadays." From his experience and my experience too, hambone is a very recent rediscovery through Tosh being able to talk about it in the private or the workshop that you had at Get Lifted. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember me and Omar sitting on the side being like, "Oh, oh my god."
Especially Firelock. Firelock can do it, and he was like, but I think it's I always say the reason why it was clear for all of us. I mean, it was clear as day. Don just kept saying it every locking camp. He was Las Vegas locking camp. I see you call it locking camp. Uh, he was always telling a story, right? But it never dawned on me until started teaching full time again, like teaching my classes and the like. It just goes to show that you have to have young students asking you questions that you can't formulate sometimes. And I remember, I know because Johnny, we have a few privates, and I had a few privates with a lot of people. And when I had that moment, that aha moment, when we say aha moment, it's when you find, when you discover the mistake that you've been doing the whole time. That's a haha moment. It's like, oh my God. And for me, it was realizing that everything I've learned, all of the formulas, of how I was taught locking, quote unquote, at the time, all of the positioning was was an imitation of what Don was doing, but broken down to to like a superficial level. And it's only as the more I looked at Don's old video, because that's one of my thing when I teach or I do private, I tell people, go watch the original, go watch Don. Don't ask me how to do it. Go watch Don. Go watch all of the elders, and then you can learn a lot from watching. And I think that that's one of the things that made unorthodox like Firelock, Hurricane. I call Omar, Brian and Alain, like I called you by your real names. But for me, like the real Dawn was always had always that loose wrist, was always talking about ham bone. Every introduction to every talk that we've had every year, he even like from 2004, the first time I took his workshop to now, he talked about it, but it never cemented, or it never dawned on me that I always thought, oh, he's talking about something from the past that he did when he was a kid, but not actually. This is, how he moves. That's how he connects his movement one after the other. This is like part of his essence. And, going back to the website that we did for Don, and Don actually is the person that said all the words to write inside the website, his official website. And I'm
Mhm.
going through it, correcting it. And I'm like, ham bone. It's written there, ham bone. Also, people are using the ham bone as a move. And I'm like, no, the ham bone is not a move. Like, I'm fighting people, not fighting, but I'm like, the ham bone is not a move. It's an art form. It's a party, aspect of the patting juba. It's Don did that. So you have to study the ham bone to understand why Don's essence in the Campbell lock is different, and it's not like so stiff the way we learned it. And the stiffness, came from these things that even somebody like Greg was trying to teach us, is like coming back towards to our bodies, right? So they're always, and then I remember going like, oh my God, that's what it is. That's what everybody was trying to break down, is the way Don always touched his body before he extended. Like it was like he was making rhythms with his body, and the ham bone being the glue that connects everything. And to find this balance is hard. It's very difficult because either you do too much ham bone and you lose yourself in the ham bone, but it's work. It's like coming through, the rhythm of creating patterns with your body sounds. Reason why a lot of the original elders, when they dance, they sound powerful, because the movement is always towards like they're slapping themselves. So it's not just like, when you're looking at every single movement, to me was like, okay, this is it. Like toe locking? No, it's not toe locking. It's just touching your toe with your hand. It's like, oh, hammers. Oh, it's not hammers. It's actually, oh, like, so people named all of these variations, but it's what Don was doing. So it's literally ham boning, or ham bone, or patent juba, or like, that's the lineage. It goes really far. And that's is cultural. It's a cultural thing. It's an Afro, uh, it's part of the Afro diaspora. It's like part of the authentic jazz dances. It's part of the all of that. But Don had it in his body also because he's from, you know, the South,
Kansas
St.
City,
Louis. Huh?
Kansas City,
Yeah,
Missouri.
yeah, exactly. So of course this is what he's gonna be. That's like his, I don't know, that's his, it's what's inside of him. It's his default, right? Hambone was always the default. His wrist rolls, his looseness was always the default. So we're taught to have looseness, but we're also stiff because that was basically the carbon copy and the carbon copy of, like, and so we're losing the essence of what actually Don was doing, is connecting the movement through that, you know it's something very, it's an authentic art form, hand boning. So that's why for me, a lot of the times I look at people, I say the Campbell lock is an art form. It's now an art form because there's so much into it. It's not just a style, right? So anyways, like, thank you, Johnny, for that question. But yeah, the kids in my class were having these questions, and the more I look back and the more I start studying more of the other dancers, even like EB Skeet, who was one of my teachers, I look back at footage from his stuff and I was like, oh my God, now I see it. But that's my teacher, and I see him touch everything. He's like on his feet, on his body, and I'm like, man, how did I miss this for 20 years? I missed this key element. It's the key component of what we need to do. and without having to like, okay, we call it like stick locking or straight locking or double time locking or this locking, all these terms that we, so people now can really go, oh, you didn't ask Don long enough. You didn't do your research long enough to understand that actually Don was giving you the recipe from day one that you took his class. It's just that our brain, as beginners at the time, who thought we knew better and wanted to learn from all the other people, we're trying to learn formulas, but we're not actually learning the essence. And Don gave us the book. He actually threw it at us, do this, stop, you know. The stop is in everything. Just like Frank Ajara said, I had a conversation with him. He said, oh my God, Don was telling us stop, lock, but we only thought lock. We never thought, oh, you can stop in everything, right? And so even somebody like Frank Ajara, we're all us, our generation that was there in the 2000 are going back going, oh man, like what a crazy thing to go 20 years, to realize that the first class is all we needed, but we couldn't see it. We couldn't understand it. So I speak in the way of a student. Still a student of this dance. So that's why me and, like Alain or Hurricane or Firelock or B, even Kaisa, we're not going to make money off of this dance. We keep taking 20 steps back to relearn the dance to make it better. Because now I'm like, wow, it was never really great. know? And I could I have proof. I could look at my old footage and go, you know? So, but that's okay. That's why we're here for, to relearn, to unlearn. That's the key. Anyways, I ranted.
Yeah,
I
relearn and unlearn.
I think
Um,
it's. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's just a little thing I would add to that. It's literally people love terms because
Mm,
it makes them sound smart.
mm,
Because there has to be something more to know when it's
mm,
literally simple. It's just one word. One word. So many people try to make the word fancy and fancier and fancier. So I can say, hey, I know more than this person and that person. I actually know more.
mm,
No, it's so simple. It's
mm,
so simple. There's just one thing, and that's
mm,
all it is. So we don't
mm,
have to make so much. It's because academia train our mind to be educated is learning more information, but really education is experience. It's that's why the thing is when you know, because you know. When you know, you can't unknow what you already know. So if I'm gonna say what I know is better, I'm just
mm,
trying to manipulate your knowledge.
mm,
You already know. So I always knew because I spent 10 days with Don when I first started dancing. Not even locking, when I first started dancing.
yeah.
And then he told me all the things that was needed to know. And he also tell me stories because he loves seeing what was going on in the time. So when someone comes to me and tell me a story that Don said, when I know Don's heart is true and they're placing themselves in that story, I already know. You don't have to tell me anything else. I already know.
Mm,
So I don't get blindsided by information because I know. And why I know is because I was blessed to be at
mhm,
the source in my very beginning.
yeah.
And that is, that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. And I remember when he was telling me all this, I'm like, I just got here. What am I supposed to do with this information? I just got here.
Mm,
So literally from what he said, I said, you know what? I will never watch anyone of today. Not even after him. I'm only watching the lockers for 3 years. That's how I conditioned my dance.
mm,
Because I knew within 3 years I will be on what is that word? I won't get like, oh, what is this word? Nobody's gonna taint me. Like my dance will not be tainted.
mm,
My dance will be true, my dance will be me, and I will have enough confidence and enough awareness to not get sidetracked, to not like something, because I will always like myself. So I didn't watch anyone else for 3 years besides like when I'm in the club and I see people dance. but
Mm.
that's a real experience. I'm not watching and copying. I am feeling influenced. Thank you. Yes, my dance will never be influenced.
Mm-hmm.
I can be inspired, but I will never be influenced.
Mm.
So for me, I will like will never understand because I don't want to understand why terms are so important.
Mm.
And the only reason I can see is for someone to just know more, and that's due to academia. It's not even all our fault. That's how we learned.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we must unlearn. And I'm doing that every single day, you know? And that's why my dance looks different every single day because we're always discovering something.
Mm-hmm.
I only started teaching him in my classes in 2017. I've been dancing since 2009.
Mm.
I've met Don in 2010,
Yeah.
you know? And I also missed the handborn part until I was seeing me do it
Mm-hmm.
because I watched him dance so much. I saw me do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is these habits?
Mm-hmm.
When I started really doing my research, I'm like, oh, this is the handborn that I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
because I knew,
Mm-hmm.
even when I wasn't aware that I was doing it, I knew because my focus was the dance.
Mm-hmm.
I will say too, like when I first started, I was watching a lot of EB Skeet. I would say he's my first virtual instructor through his DVDs. But for me and Alan, we were also very lucky to be close to Omar, to
Mm-hmm.
Firelock, because whether he talked about it or not, and he didn't, these are the types of things he did so naturally,
Always.
as not even just a locker, just as a person. Like you sit with him on the train and he's literally tapping himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you watch him dance and then like just like Alan, I was like, where did I get this? Looking at myself, like, and I was gonna say too, Kai Star is a huge influence for Hambone to me,
Mm-hmm.
of the way that he, just kind of shared the tapping and like being next to someone and doing it to kind of be
Mm-hmm.
in rhythm with somebody, because
Mm.
in locking, how else would you do that? How do you be in rhythm with somebody if you're not communicating it with your body in that way?
Mm.
I think that's something I really loved about it. But for me, it's a huge shout out to Omar for just being the type of person that he
Mm-hmm.
is. Like even before, I wouldn't hear him say like I do it like Don, or I am just inspired by Don. I could just see that he lives it,
Mm-hmm.
and I just felt by being around him and watching him do the things that he does, like this is special. This is this is what locking would look like if Don never aged in the
Mm-hmm.
2010s. That's what it felt like to me, and I was like, that I want to emulate one of my best friends. Whether I thought it or not, it just kind of happened. So like,
Yeah.
and then Tosh, I give you such a shout out to that because I feel like there's no Firelock without Tosh.
I spent so much time in Montreal with Fire when he started to try to convince him to okay, I used to say lock, and I'm still correcting myself in my classes. By the way, every time I say the word locking, I swear my students see me go locking, camera locking, camera lock, and then it's good because they see you correct yourself as you're also training yourself to stop always saying locking. It's just a roll of the tongue, right? We're used to it. It's just been it's ingrained. But at the time, trying to convince Omar to be, to start to keep locking at the time. I was like, no, you're a locker. You're a Campbell locker. You're a Campbell locker. And he didn't. He was a b-boy breaking in New York, and just trying to convince him to come to. I remember Vegas and just come and perform in battle at HHI at the time. Like it took a long time to get him to get out, of New York. So he would come to Montreal all the time and he inspired a whole bunch of people in Montreal. Still remember the first time he came. And same thing with Don and people, it was like he's contagious the way he does. but he's always done the ham bone, always. So that day when we did get lifted in New York, and I'm explaining it to people, right? And it was like, for me, it was like, Omar, Firelock, come and demonstrate. And right away, he went like perfectly. And I was like, oh man, see, like that. And he even realized, I think, for himself, like, wow, I know this. This is me. This is what I'm good at. This is so just for us to uh refocus to, okay, this is not just the move you saw in the video where they're sitting at the college and hitting their chest, and like everybody does that one, or everybody knows that we can do it in like the locker's handshake, right? Number one. But it's always like been like rubbing your thighs, but it's like, nah, man, Don was just doing that. It's not a term, it's not a move with a term, it's just that. It's the essence of this it's like a social dance, a party dance of the time. Like there is a difference between Pat and Juba and that one. One is, but it's ritualistic. It's creating rhythms with, you know, uh, us not having instruments to play. So what are you using? Your body to play, because we were confiscated, not we, but my lineage, my ancestors, through like the slave trade, or like the transatlantic slave trade. We couldn't play the instrument. We couldn't have our tam tams, or drums or things.
I'll give them a brief history on that.
Huh?
So in 1808, once Haiti got their independence,
Yeah,
right, the rest
yeah,
of the world was like, oh my God. They were creating messages through rhythm of the drums and instruments that they have. So what the
yeah.
rest of the world did, they took away every captured people that we call slave, every enslaved people. They took away all their instruments, the drums, everything. And so they had to reduce to their body to
Hmm.
play music. Carry on, Tosh. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but it's literally that. So when you're thinking everything that you see, from stepping to strolling, like the sororities and the fraternities, like you're looking at all of it in the lineage of what we do, stepping. That's what it is, right? It's just a progression. It goes into the universities. It turns into stepping. Like we all did those things without understanding the lineage, because everything is, the colonialism is so intense, right? That we just think, oh, it's the new cool thing to do, but it's part of us, right? So Donna was always part of him. So I'm going back to the main topic. It was always part of him. Like, but he could not explain it, just like, the universe cannot explain to you how it created itself. You know, Don created a dance. He couldn't explain it. All we could do is trying to watch him and figure it out. Like, what is he doing? Everybody did that. Everybody looked back at Don and try to capture the essence, right? And it's probably the hardest thing. I still say to people, I still don't have it, you know, and that's the truth. And
That's
why I strive to be more like Don. But if without Don, this is why there is no difference between Campbell locking and locking. When people want to say locking, I'm like, no, because if Don had this rhetoric of be just like me, there would be no Scooby, no Greg, no other people coming with their own little twist to what Don did to adding. So for me, it's like you know, you're not you're speaking. You have to speak to the choir. Like, look at them and people that are actually saying things like, "Well, but Scooby is a locker because he doesn't dance." Like, I'm like, oh my god, like, stop, right? I'm like, no, like Scooby is the product of the philosophy of Don. Don saying, "Take my dance, make it yours." Scooby made it his. Everybody else after Don made it his. So if they're fighting, and resisting the truth, I'm like, it's only because you've been, probably inconsistent in the way you teach about your truth with a small t, right? And your truth with a small t, if we add the authentic truth with a big capital T, it kind of dissolves everything you've been teaching for the last 30 years, right? And to me, that's what it is. Is like if they're resisting, it's because you've been teaching something else. Whereas for me and Hurricane and Omar, Firelock, Little B, Kaisa, we're just like when we figured it out, we're like, it's nothing that we don't know. It's amazing that we didn't come to that conclusion as soon as, we met Don, right? Some of us were closer, like Alain, because you spent 10 days, but
Mhm,
I was with him forever, over and
mhm,
over. And,
mhm,
it took me all of these, let's say, since 2 decades to finally connect the dots. Even though I knew they were connected, I still didn't know how connected they were. So
mhm,
for people to tell me that they're not willing to reclaim it, I'm like, wow. So there's a lot of work that you need to do. It's more emotional, it's more resisting than, like when you have a truth, it's evidence. Like,
mhm,
why are you gonna waste energy fighting something that's truth with a big T, like with a capital T. So for
mhm,
me, that's what it is. It's just, I'm not going to force anyone. I don't want to be that person. I'm doing the work. It's hard for me to switch it up on the way I speak. It's hard. Like even Don said, lock it up all the time to all of us. Lock it up, but there's like the diminutive, the nickname, it's like me. Okay, best example. My name is Natasha, Tash, dance name, Jean Bart, right? But how many Tashes is there in the world? Lots. So if at the end of my life, I want to I'm writing a book and I want to be remembered and I just write Tash. Anybody can claim my book. Anybody could add Tash or say, oh, my nickname is Tash too, right? But if I say, no, my real name is Natasha Jean Bart, even though it's not really, really my real name, let's say it's my slave name, Jean Bart. But at the same time, that's what we're talking about, Dawn. It's like imagine somebody saying you cannot keep your name that your parents gave you.
mhm, mhm,
Then who are you at the end of your life? What is history gonna write about your life, right? We want history to remain with Don's name inside of it. Like this is when I'm dead, you know, when everybody is not here, and then there's a future generation that's still doing the Campbell lock, they will remember Don as the creator and not all these other entities that have, contributed to locking. Because everybody that's a true Campbell locker, like all of the people after Don that love this dance, will not fight it. They know the truth. I have to stop talking.
I'm gonna interject really quick, and that's to say I think a lot of us who didn't really get it in the beginning, and I'll put myself in that category as well. Like, there's an element of fear of if I reclaim the name Campbellock, does that repudiate everything that I've done up until now? And it doesn't. It shouldn't, because that's what the source is. The source is you being able to take the things that you learned and
Mhm,
apply them.
mhm,
And like for myself, I'm not always the most confident person when it comes to knowing myself and understanding what I want out of things.
mhm,
You know, and I think that for myself, like even learning like the different terms, the different styles, the different whatever, all the things, and being able to categorize things into being able to figure things out, because my mind works in so many different ways, and my mind can't decide. So, and I mean, like you look at all the records, and I'm like, oh, I gotta figure all this stuff out. But no matter what you do, you come full circle. You
mhm,
come full circle, and the source material, even if you didn't get it in the beginning, the whole point of us going through that cycle of learning things and learning all the techniques and figuring things out and trying to experiment, blah blah blah, it just takes you back to square one.
mhm,
So for anyone who is like kind of struggling to figure that out, it's again, this isn't like the hammer over the head. It isn't like, okay, telling you to do it just to do it. There's a
Mm.
reason for it, and as Tosh and Ellen have been saying, like there is the origin, there's the source, everything was there. So
And it's more like a spiral than like
yeah,
we go full circle, but then with the whole knowledge that we have now, we're like a little higher on the spiral, but starting over, going up. And it's not like erasing anything that we've learned, right? It just
Mhm.
puts it into context, like, oh my God, I learned this. That makes more sense now that I see it this way. That's the haha moment, like, oh, I can find my way out of the forest. It's
I,
a
I
deep forest.
I remember when you first
And
explained that spiral instead of it being a full circle to me, because I realized I saw things as always being full circle. But that kind
Mm.
of means if you visualize it, you're always in a hallway and you can't see back to the source. But if you're a
Mhm.
spiral and you're going up, you have all of this range to be able to look down at the center
Yeah.
point to see the source, to see where it
Mhm.
came from, where you came from.
hurricane.
A hurricane. I
Thank you.
I
That's
think
why Don said you dance like a hurricane, because he sees that I am everywhere and anywhere, and I stay at the source.
Mm.
I don't know why I didn't put that together. You
oh
ruined my
man.
visualization forever. But I was gonna say
And
too, Tosh and Alan, that like I really look up to you guys as mentors in the way that you teach your classes and you spread the knowledge. And for even you two to say you're constantly doing the work. And
Mm.
you said that in two ways that I want to highlight. One is being able to try to correct ourselves to refer it to Campbell locking, because
Mhm.
we've also been doing it for a long time. Roll of the tongue, it's just gonna happen. But we're trying to do the work to correct ourselves. So that's also an invitation as teachers. We are working on that. Please work on it too alongside us. And
Mm.
even in the redefinition and relearning and knowing that now we understand parts of the source better, like with hambone, right? Like that's a very big one for us this year in
Mm.
2024, that all of us are saying, "Oh my god, hambone. Like it was there all along. I didn't make the connection." So we are also still learning. We are not
Mm.
we are not the teachers of this dance, like we know it all.
Mhm.
We are
Mhm.
still constantly students. And I say that because I believe that, again, I look up to you guys and there's so much removal of the ego,
Yeah.
right? Because as a constant student that is also trying to spread information, our name isn't on it, except for the fact that I am a student alongside you, the people taking my class, who all happen to be the students in this class. We are constantly working on this and being like, why didn't I understand this before? But I understand more of it now. And what I think is beautiful about Hambone, as I'm not going to say new, but it is a resurgence of understanding of the source, that anyone
Mhm.
who hears this now, to that we should be exploring Hambone, I think everyone's going to come up with different ways that impacts you in your lifestyle, inside of your dance, inside of your own rhythms.
Mhm.
And what I think is exciting about that is not like we're waiting for Tosh to figure it out and how she's gonna teach it. Like, no, it's like all of us are like, Hambone, what does that mean to me? Have I been
Mhm.
doing it unintentionally or subconsciously? And that I am being conscious of it as a teacher, as an advocator of this genre of dance. How am I sharing that? What is my understanding of like my own rhythms? How am I
Mm.
doing it by myself on stage? And
Mm.
oh, it was funny too. Like when I think about Hambone, of Don using it or doing
Mm.
it, I think of him waiting to go into dance, and
Mm.
that's when he's like already,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
because he's already doing all of this, he's when he steps into the circle or he goes on stage or starts dancing with somebody, none of this changed. He's still doing that. He's still doing all this, and then he just stops. To me, that is like as simple as I can explain the dance, right? Another way to
Dance,
simply explain it.
It's the
like
most beautiful.
I'll say,
Go
no, go
ahead.
ahead. No, I'll say this. You're only as a great teacher as you are a great student.
Mm,
Period. Because a student is constantly learning. It's just we get to a place of sharing information because we are accumulating enough information to share. So, what is a teacher anyway? A teacher is a student with information, and a
mhm,
teacher becomes a real teacher once they have experienced that information.
mhm,
So you're still on a student phase when you are still experiencing the information. You only become a teacher when you have experienced the information. So a new information, I'm a student of that new information. I'm not a teacher of that new information. It's just people think a teacher is just a whole thing, but they don't
mhm,
understand. I know a lot about how to tie my durag. I've experienced it forever. Now I'm a teacher of tying the durag. But I'm not gonna get a wrap that the ladies do all the time and start to wrap my hair and be like, "Now I'm gonna teach you how to wrap your hair." No, she has that experience. She's a teacher of hair wrap. Now I'm learning how to wrap my hair. Now I'm a student of wrapping hair. Now I'm gonna spend some years wrapping my hair. Then I will live that information. Now I'm experiencing that information. Now I can probably share with you how to wrap your hair, and I'm still learning about the durag. I'm still learning what makes me comfortable. I'm still learning how to not get the markings on my forehead. But I've been doing this for years,
mm.
you
It's
know?
very important to let people to make people understand that it's the awareness, becoming aware of the, like, let's say something like the hambone is, or something that Don always did that seemed invisible because he always did it, right? And as a human being, when you're a child and when you're a beginner, you're not aware yet. You haven't had enough experience, and you haven't repeated the pattern over and over again, and you haven't looked in the right places. So it was always there. It was just you're not seeing it because it's not pointed out to you like, look there, right? So all of us are looking at the Campbell lock, or locking, quote unquote, as a whole thing that we learn from other people and on us as well, as all of the elements, like, let's say, often we're saying the 8 things or the 6 things or the 5 things. You're looking at each action, right? That Don did. He pointed, he did that, he did this. But why did all of them learn the same things and they all were different somehow, right? And it's like that one thing that was connecting these two things that they were doing, like Don was doing. And the moment you bring awareness to that, and so everybody that's watching this live, when you go back to the drawing board and look at Don again, now you'll see it because we brought it to your attention. Every time you're going to look at a dancer that can do it, like Omar, or even like Hurricane, or any of like the people that kind of start stepping, because we just like were doing it. Like every time I did the handshake, I was doing it, but I had no awareness attached to it. I was just, this is what I have to do. This is what everybody does, or this is what I saw Don doing, not understanding that, like now that I go back with the awareness that I have of like a bit more mature in the dance, I can go, wow, how did I not see it? And every single one of you are going to see it now because we bring it to the awareness of it was always there. And even Dawn, like what Kaistor said and what Little B said, he literally is doing it before he even gets in. And that's why we're counting the clock. We're start taking, like, the clock starts ticking the only when people are in the cipher or like performing, but nobody sees how he's leaning into it, right? And that was the key for me. It was like, okay, now I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I swear I looked at every single Soul Train video from the first episode. Anything that I could find that Dawn was in, I looked at it and then I saw it all and I was like, Wow. So it's finding the, like literally finding the grail. You think you can never find the grail, but then you find the grail and you think it's like not a thing, but you do find it, right? So for me, I really urge people, you don't want to accept the Campbell lock, but really, this is where it starts. It starts with Don. It starts with the way he moves. Little things like that we were taught to like be close to our body. Like I see people, teaching it, but this is like, it's again the same thing. Don, this is why Greg sounded like a martial artist because he was close to his body. Don was close to his body. Shab was close to his body. Everybody that looked at Don like he was the god learned that from Don. And this is what most people missed. And they, even them teaching it, missed it. That's crazy. They couldn't teach it, right? So they could only analyze it. Like I said, and some of your students, some of our students, and me also as a student, was a lot like Kaisar. I was trying to find all the pieces of the puzzle. Like the part of my brain that's linear wanted a term to attach so I could like be secure in my knowledge, right? And the more I did that, the other side, my right side, my creative side, was like, no, Tash, you're a dancer. You're a dancer. You're a dancer. Just freestyle. Like I keep hearing Don talking in my ear you know and I think that that's what it is that we were struggling with these things and also feeling insecure about saying we're Campbellockers because that's a huge mental to carry, right? We were just like, no, I'm not a Campbellocker. Like Don is the only person that could do that thing. He's the best at it. So you have all these imitations of Don that kind of does the hambone, but they can't explain it to you. We're explaining it to you because we did the research. Most people just copy and paste and just learn, you know, the pathways without understanding why, not explaining how. What is it? Now we're just like ourselves doing the research as students. We're students. We're still researching. We don't know everything. So the thing about wanting to preserve the Campbell lock is to preserve all the essence of Don in its totality, and the spirit and the philosophy, right? That's what's important.
There's something that you mentioned that was, I think, a big highlight in the last episode that we did, and it was the, maybe want to say, the lack of confidence and
Mm,
insecurity to say I am a Campbell locker.
mm,
It's a very, and I realized as we were talking about it, it's actually very heavy of looking at yourself and saying, am I being you? Am I being myself? And am I
mm,
proud of it the way that Dawn
mm,
is proud of it? And I
mm,
can tell you, I'm almost 20 years in. For like a lot of those years, I wasn't proud enough to be able to say it.
mm,
And even now with this resurgence of the topic of, making sure that we refer to locking as Campbell locking, why didn't I do that before? And it's so vindicating to hear you, Tosh, say that, because
mm,
I would like to think a lot of us have been thinking about that. What does it mean to call myself a Campbell locker? And why didn't I do it before? So, like, thank you for sharing that. I think it's a very big thing to highlight, as it's not just about correcting the name change. It also might just be how you view yourself as a
mm,
dancer, as an artist, as a human being. Because when we talk about Don, we're not just highlighting the type of dancer that he was. He was a very loving, fun man. And that's something that's why we push for this too. It's not just to the source. It's like we got to be around this beautiful person. It's like that why I feel so lucky to be around these three right here. Like, this is what I want to share. The messages that you guys are about. And it just so happens to be from the same person. I do want to jump topics a little bit because there was another question um, from Katrina or Key, and this is to you guys because she does look to you guys for mentorship, and I think this is a great question. And it's have you ever had dancer's block? like being able to unable to create choreo, being able to connect to music or with other dancers. What have you done to get out of it, or what do you suggest? And she says she's experiencing it right now.
Big question.
It
You
is a
want to
big
answer?
question.
You
It's
want to, Alain?
interesting. It's interesting to answer because I've never had,
That's what I was
but
scared of.
Yeah, I was afraid of that too. Not gonna lie.
but I do understand it because I don't just look at the world with my own eyes. I also, being a great student, is also to learn from others and learn from others' triumphs and mistakes.
Mm,
And I also do that because what I always say about my life is that why I'm so clear is because it's not because I knew what I wanted to do or I knew what I wanted or knew what I needed. It's literally only because I always knew what I don't want. I knew what I didn't want. So I always knew what to not attach my dance to. So first I will ask myself, what am I attaching my dance to and why? Why am I dancing anymore?
mm,
Why am I doing this choreo? Why am I creating this thing? For what?
mm,
You know, I'm if I ever felt this way, I would know for sure it is because I'm attaching my dance to something.
mhm,
And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but from my studying of my friends, people that I met, people from a majority of when that happened, and the only reason I was able to help them see through it is because I asked them those questions.
mhm.
And 99% of the time, it was that. So I will go by that and share that with you.
That's a good one. For me, I don't know if I've had dancer's block, but I've wanted to quit dance a few times. And it's not because I didn't love dance, it's because of the expectations of other people upon my dance and what people judged my dance to be or my actions to be. So they would be making comments and then I would lose the meaning of my creation, right? It's like, so when we dance, we create meaning, right? There's like this we make meaning important to us. The moment we lose the meaning of the thing we create, it has no more meaning. It has no more connection to source. Then we have a block, right? Because we don't know why we're creating it. Interestingly enough, when I know, like, and I'm inspired to create, it everything flows. There's no block. Everything flows. It's like the universe is giving me exactly what I'm asking for. I put the idea. It's just it's almost to the point a little weird. It's like, you're like, people don't believe in the spirits. I believe in that stuff because I'm like, the moment I make a meaning in my head, I'm saying I'm gonna do this. This is what I want to do. And it's like the whole universe, like that book, The Alchemist, conspires to give it to you in the form. You don't know what form it's going to take, but it comes for you. When you have a block, it's because you're not resourcing yourself. You're not aligned. You're not aligned yourself in. You've probably replaced one meaning with something superficial sometimes, or like something that you're trying to escape through another form. So for me, I'll give you an example. When I went from, I'm a great writer, I love writing, I can write forever, but then my ego said, oh, you're a writer now, Tash, you know you can leave dance. And then the universe was like, let me make it hard for you to become a writer because you're gonna see you haven't trained enough and you don't love it enough and you're too much of a beginner. You're gonna make all the writer's mistakes and then you're gonna want to quit. Yet dance is the thing that I'm recognized for. So I'm moving from one to the next. So then my dance is blocked. My dance is not going nowhere. But this is where I can use my writing to support my dance, but I was trying to be a writer to do things that my ego wanted me to do, right? Whereas dance is something that just flows through me. And if I use the writing to nurture dance, everything flows. But if I separate the two, if I make life about all these pockets of things, there's blocks that are created because it's not about balance, it's about harmony. It's not about I can do this well and I can do this well and get balance the extreme. It's about bringing all of your strengths together in on one sphere and say, you know what, when I'm teaching, I'm also a student. When I'm a student, I'm also a teacher. When I'm writing, I'm also the listener and the reader. When I'm reading, I'm also the like people like to just be the I, but we are we. We're many things. So once you start reconnected all the pieces that you are together, like things are going to start flowing. It's like money, right? The more you pinch at it, the more you think you don't have enough, the more the flow is blocked. So you really have to like open up and say, you know what? I'll take it any shape or form it's coming. And I'll stop letting people tell me about how my dance should be, right? So
Mm.
for me, to go back to what we just said before that connects to this, it was always Tash, the dancer that can lock. It would like, but Tash is not a real locker. That's what people were saying about me. No, for real. And I kept hearing this and making a meaning out of it. Oh, I'm a dancer that can lock. It's so funny. So I would remove myself from the responsibility of becoming a great Campbell locker. Because I was like, yeah, but I'm a great dancer. And it's true, I'm a great dancer. So it was like almost me pushing back with my gift. But then my gift is also Campbell locking. It's just that I was making a separation. Not that Campbell locking and locking was different. I was just like, like we all said, weren't so confident because of what people were saying about us, where somebody like Alain was like, I don't give a shit what you think about my locking. I'm just gonna be the greatest Campbell locker, and a hurricane and spin around you, and you won't know what you just missed, And I think that that's what the key is like once you stop caring like about what other people think of your dance, what the elders, sometimes the OGs would tell you, yeah, you're not like, I get it. Sometimes I look at dancers, I'm like, "Ugh, it's true, it's not great. But they're at the beginning of the spiral. I was there too. I can accept that. I can look at that and go, good luck, have fun. It's a long way up. I'm still on my way up. So the block, when you're on a spiral, there is no way there's a block. But where you're on a like repeating cycle of, replacing one thing with the next or escaping into another art form. I see dancers do that all the time. You know, they go, okay, I'm tired of locking, tired of Campbell locking. I'm going to be a best popper now. And then they switch and they forget the reason why they fell in love with dancing in the first place, right? And then you have to start over. So you keep like replacing it. You're on a cogwheel instead. You keep jumping from wheel to wheel instead of like enjoying the process of like doing one thing right, adding the other thing. Don't lose Campbell locking. Learn how to pop, but don't lose this one. Don't, because if you don't get your props or you don't get what your heart's desire, it's a life problem. It's not a dance problem. It's a life problem. It's something that has to do with fixing, y- you know, like the healing of you first, so that you could be okay with everything that comes at you. It doesn't matter, like failures are not really failures, you're making things, right? So I don't know, it's never an attack. Like a block is a good way for the universe to tell you something, you're missing something. It's like there's a barricade. Okay, what's the ha-ha moment? What's your ha-ha? What are you going to figure out how to get out of the deep forest? There is a way. You just haven't seen it yet. And it's okay. You're not supposed to see it yet. You're supposed to learn through the trial and tribulation of life. And then once, you start, reaping, let's say the harvest, like now I'm reaping the harvest and I'm like, whoa, it took a long time to plant all those seeds, but now I see why the flow is now. Everything is like, oh my God, it's too much. But that's because I stuck to it, right? But I almost quit many times. And it's always because of other people. It wasn't because I wanted to quit. It's like you think you want to quit, or you want to, or you have a block, but it's always has to do with the expectations of others that doesn't mesh with what you really want, and what you really, it's not what you want, it's what you need, right? Wanting is very ego, but needing something is like air and earth, like with water, that you need that, right?
Mm,
But we want to be famous. So life is not going to make us famous. That's just too superficial, you know? So we want to be recognized. Well, life is not going to make you recognized because you want that, That's too superficial. The moment you start serving, you serve other people, is when you get everything that you deserve, right? But it has to be in service. So that's why none of us are ever going to make money with the Campbell Lock, because we keep serving, giving this information without, like, it's free. It doesn't belong to us. Nothing belongs to us. It doesn't belong. We don't own, we don't have ownership over this dance. We're not also the authority on this dance. We're students loving the dance that Don created for us. It gave us more than we can ever give Don back.
truly. Kai, did you have
Mm.
any thoughts on that question?
Oh man. Um, I am the person that ran away and became a DJ instead of. But clearly, I mean, like, I think, again, not to. It's just another step on the spiral.
Mhm,
Um, you you learn something, and everything ends up being interconnected,
mhm,
right? Like everything that you do, even when I have one block in one thing, I experience some kind of epiphany in another, and it's all interconnected. Like one thing will lead you to another, and it's like dominoes, and you don't realize it until you take over the first one.
mhm,
So it's to me, it's exactly as Tosh said. No, it's exactly as Alan said. You do it, and something will be that spark. Something will be it. But you have to kind of commit to it. And I think it also comes back to, again, like the whole point of Campbell locking, and the message of it is to have that self empowerment, and to realize that you do have the self empowerment to make things happen, and to like really put things out there and be creative. And even if you run into the block, like you're still gonna try, you're still gonna try, you're still gonna try. And so like even for me, like there's times where I felt exactly the same way as Tosh. Like I don't like it's the people that drive
mhm,
me nuts, and it's the people that drive me away. But
mhm.
you make something and you do something, and I think that'll lead you back to where you should be.
And the
Yeah.
Absolutely.
stop. You just said
Yeah.
block is literally a stop. The stop is healthy in the Campbell lock. You need to stop. We
Yeah.
all know this. It's part of the philosophy. In life, you need to stop. Stop and
It's
take
so
a break.
poetic. The dance itself, it's so poetic, and that's why it's an art. Stop,
It is.
pay attention, go. Stop, pay attention, and process. Process. He
Mm-hmm,
didn't know how to dance. He stopped because he was processing the rhythm of the music.
mm-hmm,
And you can stop anyhow, anywhere. And the last thing I would say about this is also zoom out.
mm.
We all sometimes pay attention like this to one thing when there's like this.
There's
I
a
always
whole.
say something that I'm always in the middle. I am never too far away. I'm never too down. No matter what is happening in my life, I stay in the middle.
Mm,
And if I was scared of anything, I would always be scared of success or happy times
mhm,
because that's the most time we are literally like, I'm happy.
mhm.
and we're not paying attention to anything else. When you're down, you are forced to be like, oh, I'm down. I have to now look at everything else. So that's why I choose to always stay in the middle. So I'm always zoomed out. I'm an expanded person. So I'm like in the middle of all this thing that I can see. So that's why I'm enjoying myself because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
ooh, oh, I'm literally this is my life, you
Right
know.
in the eye of the
So
hurricane.
That's it.
it's
Yep.
all making sense now. No,
Yeah. That's why
you
also
know.
elders have a different perspective, right? Elders are, not to say that all of them have gone up the pyramid, or there are sometimes on the pyramid at the tip, right? And their view is from the top, right? And because they stopped and they're looking at us play in the backyard, and they just have all these comments about our dance and what we're not doing, what we're doing. And elevation is good, but it's something that happens later in life, right? You have like you're at the because your body falls. You're like Don was at that point where he's looking at all of us play, right? So it's hard to be an elder, let's say, because I'm not an elder yet. I'm looking at my elders. I'm like, you have to be in the yard with everyone, to be able to play with. And so if they're always looking from a perspective of that's the past, and now you all are doing this and we don't agree, that's why we're not resonating sometimes with our elders. And I could totally understand an elder going like I heard it often, you're this mediocre, and of course, because it's amateur. I looked amateur at the beginning of my dance career. Everybody does, right? We all, but then, you know, it's the difference is we have, not all of us, I have a little bit of footage, but most of these elders, like if they weren't famous, they don't have a lot of footage of themselves. So, like everything that they talk about sometimes is very skewed. And people like that were more famous, like the Lockers, have more proof, right? So some elders are just pulling at hairs trying to like stay relevant when we talk about the Campbell lock, and they, for them, it erases them out of the picture. And I'm like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to erase you guys out of the picture. But the thing is that when you're, still involved with the new generation, not as I'm going to tell you what to do, is more like I don't know what I'm doing half the times too. I want to be equal. For me, there's no way that I would have discovered, for myself, or like have the epiphany of hambone if it wasn't for me and the kids in the class asking the most random questions that I don't know how to answer. And then like going, oh man, how am I going to answer that? Right. And going back and going back. So I think that's what it is. It's like the moment that we stop, like being like Alain in the middle of the ice, the eye of the storm, right? You're inside and you see things, and sometimes you can grasp things, you're like, oh, I'm going to focus on that, right? And things are still going like this. And this is what the flow is. Like, you're not trying to like resist the storm. You're not trying to become the storm. Like, you're just like, okay, like, let me center myself. Everyone is crazy around me, but you zoom out enough to see that everyone is crazy around you. If not, you go crazy yourself, right? And I think that that's the key, is to like, and that's a life skill, right? It's with everything that you do in life, career, it's not just in dance. So I think the more people start understanding that, let's say, reclaiming the Campbell lock is a philosophy. It's it's a priority for where we're going in the future. It's like planting those trees, those seeds now, so that it blooms for all of the new generation when we're not there anymore, so that we don't have to go through the same problems that our elders went through, fighting with each other, you know or passing and transitioning with the pain and that they have in their heart, right? So I think that that's what it is. Just be like Alain.
I
Don't don't fear. Don't just carry the cross, the burden of.
I will say trying to be like Ellen is one of the hardest things to ever ask of people. Knowing him very personally.
Oh
Every
man.
time he does one of those things, I'm like, oh, my life is just like I'm like I see it, I'm like, and then I get
Uh,
No, I
I
love
I
it.
I'm gonna pitch in really quick for a second though, because I think there's one thing that's a good takeaway from what both of you said, and that is, you know, like the everything is I don't even want to say a parallel. Everything's a part of life. Like the whole point of reclaiming the Campbellock, for instance, isn't so much to be okay. Well, this is just about the dance. No, it's about, again, like people, like Don as a person, us as people, giving back as people. So we're not. So it's not about taking away from what, you know, the other elders did, or those contributions. You know, like there, it's about us being, trying to be the best people and trying to give that love back because we got the love.
yeah,
Like that's something that was given to us.
yeah.
So I
I have
yeah,
a
Yeah.
question from a student. That one of my student want that, because Alain did what he did. A whole bunch of people were asking me questions, but it's a good question. He was like, and he said, "How do we call a locking battle now? Is it a Campbell locking battle or the Campbell lock battle or a Campbell lock battle? Because like students that are linear need these questions answered. It's like, are we gonna call it Campbell locking? Are we gonna call it Campbell lock? Is it up to the organizer?" And I'm just like, because he couldn't be there today, he asked me to ask that question, and I was like, that's a good question. I don't think we figured that far in yet. I know that for me, the Campbell lock is the art form, right? It's and that how I told him that Dennis had said Campbell locking is the doing, of the art form. But really, when it comes to organizer renaming, it's not rebranding, but if they choose to reclaim it, like maybe you guys have, some thoughts on how to.
I'll say this, even with the event that we've created over here called, wow, I don't even know my own event name.
get lifted.
Get lifted. That's
It's
how
okay.
much I'm not attached to something. Like
Yeah,
I'm not, because it's not for me.
right.
It's not for me. I am not attached to this. So get lifted, the Campbellock experience. You know, the Campbellock experience. And what was it? The Campbellock experience.
It was
you
amazing.
know, And so I left the locking on the flyer, but I put it right under Campbellock.
Mhm.
You know, because this is how you. I didn't just drop the bomb on y'all. It's just like, here it is,
Yeah.
the truth. This is what you're used to. This is what it is,
Mhm.
and you're gonna experience what it is,
Yeah.
because I do know what it is, and this is coming from the most love of me, and it's not mine because it's not mine. I'm letting it go to you. That's why you can enjoy it the way you can enjoy it, because it was let go to me. So I'm never gonna hold on to it. I will continue to let it go to you because it's not mine. So you're experiencing the Campbellock actually,
Mhm.
you know. So it's up to these events to say Campbellock.
Mhm.
You know, it's up to the events. We're not forcing anyone to do anything,
Yeah.
but we're just like, tell, that's the truth. Now you know the truth. What are you gonna do? You can't
Absolutely.
unsee something. You
Right.
cannot. Once you see it, you see it.
Mhm.
You see it, you know? And maybe now when you watch some people dance, it will make a little bit more sense to you
Yeah.
instead of denying people
Yeah, we
because you have an excuse. Now you have no excuse.
Mm.
we talked about this in the last episode too, and the reason I bring it up is like it's pointing out that everybody within this street dance culture has a different role that you provide at any moment, right? So if I'm speaking strictly to organizers, you know your community best.
Yes.
Is your event for the locals? Is it inviting overseas people? Do they is there a pushback of calling it locking? Is there a lack of education of not knowing that people or that we should be honoring Dawn as the creator of this dance in your community? Has that been happening? Is like, do you mention Don Campbell at your event?
Yeah.
And so this is why I say it's up to you to know your community and how you want to be of service as an organizer after being
Mhm.
invited to this conversation. How will you use it within your community? Because you will know best. And we are never going to look at people and frown upon it, right? If you just continue like using lock, we're not going to be like, oh, shame on them. Like, no, like everyone in every community is going to be taking this at your own pace because you know your
Mhm.
community best, how
Mhm.
you can be of service so that others could be of service.
Mhm.
And I think that's important to know because there's not going to be a global answer. We just know
Mhm.
what we're doing for ourselves. And so before I get into Get Lifted, there's actually one thing I wanted to get into just to like uh for me to put my input on the, have you ever had dancer's block and what do you do about it? I echo a lot of or everything that Kai Star, Hurricane, and Tosh have said here. And something that I wanted to impart that was imparted to me by Luce Caboose was go back to the source. And I'm not saying go back to Dawn, but this it's funny that like this aligns with it. When we talk about
Yeah.
Campbell locking, we're saying go back to the source of Dawn, right? But when I say
Mhm.
here, go back to the source, go back to the beginning, try to
Mm.
remember what it was like for you in your story when you started dancing.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that you continued doing it because you thought it was fun. You knew it didn't, like Alan was saying, he knew what he didn't want. And maybe it's like not knowing that you don't want not fun, but you know you want fun. So when you want fun, you'll continue doing it because that's what gives you the hunger. That's what makes you a student again. Whether you're
Mhm.
teaching yourself or you're asking your peers or your mentors for some
Mhm.
advice, it's that hunger of I want, I want. Please give me so I can feed myself. And then when you're full, you have energy and you're able to have fun. And that should be part of the spiral cycle, right? So, and this is it's nice that I had a great talk with Angel a couple weekends ago about there's tracing to the source of your genre, tracing to the source of your dance style, in which case we're talking about Campbell locking. How does tracing back to that source match, or what's the difference between your source, your story? And I think that's a
Yeah.
really fun way to think about it too, because you might be able to block out the things that you don't want,
Mhm.
and you remember to have fun with it again. And like Kaista was saying, it's all interconnected because I'd like to say that we're not just dancers, we are artists.
Mhm.
We love to create, whether that is for people with an audience or for ourselves. We just love to create and be present, be mindful
Mhm.
with ourselves, and that's constant work. And the
Mhm.
reason we keep pushing for Campbell locking is because that is one of our artistic responsibilities in a sense, but also our privilege to be able to say, I'm a Campbell locker. He taught me how to have fun with this. And thank you guys for answering that question. I think that was really helpful.
And none of us look the same.
And
Anyways.
none of us
None.
look the same.
None.
That
And
is,
you know what's funny? You know what's funny? When I started dancing, somehow, some way, the universe brought me to house dance conference, and I wanted to be a background dancer at first because I thought that's where you dance. I just wanted to dance. So being a background dancer, I thought that's just where you dance, not because that's what I want to be. That's where you dance, and it looks fun. So when I'm in house dance conference, I said, and there was a battle there at the same time. And then I said, "Oh, you can just dance?" That's what brought me to battles. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't to win. I said, "Oh, I can just dance." That's crazy. And I can remember this because I've never lost it.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I step into a battle, I'm like, "Oh, I could just dance here." And why right now I'm like on Broadway in the concert world and other environments, and why I was able to do other environments is because after I found freestyle and I could just dance, I lost. I don't think I've ever gained touch with choreography.
Mm.
And then when I found my teacher, Rhapsody James, with choreography, she literally said, "Hurricane, don't you do a dance style called locking, but Kimba locking? I'm at the time now when
Mm.
everybody just knew it was locking."
Yeah.
So like, don't that dance have foundations that you use to dance? It's the same thing with choreography. Just use what we're giving you. Just dance with it.
Mm.
And I literally said, "Oh, I can just dance here too. Oh, I'm doing everything. I'm gonna check where else I can have fun.
Mm. It's exactly that.
I can have fun everywhere. Oh, it's Broadway. Fun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's concert. Fun. Oh, it's dancing with an artist. Fun. I'm just exploring my fun, y'all. Like, I didn't
It's
stop
really,
battling. I didn't stop doing anything. I'm just exploring the places of dance and the different languages of dance that I'm having fun with. I love dance. Campbell King is just it's so pure.
yeah.
It's so pure because of all the misconceptions of it. That when I saw Dawn, I saw the purity and I saw what I needed
Mm-hmm.
because I always knew what I don't want and I didn't want not fun.
I don't want not fun.
Yeah. Not fun.
Little bit
Mm.
catchphrase now.
Yeah.
And
Not
so
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's the
literally
key.
it.
Fun is the key. Even when I teach class, I don't do intermediate. I don't like to do it. I like beginner because I was like, this is where I'm still having fun, just teaching the two step, you know? Like that's fun. Like some of us, we need to reclaim our childlike, essence. The childlike essence is not afraid of making mistakes, like Dawn. That's the childlike thing that Dawn always retain. You never judge anyone based on, you know, making mistakes. He just gave you like carte, like you just go freestyle, have fun, take it, make it yours. And he was always so encouraging, right? And I think
Mhm.
that that's what makes it fun. It's just like if you lose, it's a bit like Bruce Lee, right? When he's talking about the first time he punched and the feeling, the exhilaration of punching the first punch when he saw it the first time somebody do it and he was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Kind of like us when we saw like the Campbell lock, before. And but then by the time you throw 1,000 punches or 10,000 punch, it loses it's not fun anymore. Now it's work, right? And you just want to get back to that original feeling, the source of like the first time you saw it, how it made you feel. We all need to get back to there, and I think we need to remind even the people that we dance with that if it's not fun anymore, like you need to pause and stop.
Pause and stop. I just want to pitch in really quick here as well because there's something that I thought you said that was really really cool, and talking about mistakes.
Mm.
I don't think we should like we if you think about it, the whole Campbell Lock art form was started from a mistake.
Mhm.
So we
It's
can
so poetic.
reclaim the fun of things from that. But I will say one place that you can have fun and I can dance here is Get Lifted. And I
Yes.
Yeah,
think I'll pass that over to 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 Brian really
thank
quick
you.
because he has a couple more details.
That is a much better segue than I would have had.
See?
because also now that we have Tosh here, we never these are first time being on the show, and we talked extensively about Get Lifted right afterwards with Hurricane and Firelock. I still can't believe that we got to prove to the world for 3 hours that Firelock is alive. Um, besides him showing up for 3 days, that was really cool. But
Right.
to give you some context, Get Lifted was Unorthodox's event that they first held in New York earlier this year, and I was the battle guest. Tosh was the judge and teacher for the workshop, and I saw Sequoia in here earlier. He was in the finals with me, which was
Mm,
a beautiful battle. But um,
amazing.
so we
Still in
call it
here.
the Campbell
Shout
Lock
out.
experience, and it's we say that because it's like we're trying to take back just calling it battles, right? It's not about like we're battling each other. We call we call that aspect of the weekend the exchange, the Campbellock
Hmm.
exchange, because
Yeah.
we are there now to exchange with each other. And we
Mhm.
had within the exchanges there was a primary bracket for people who do locking extensively, if that's what I say is your primary art form. And then we had the general bracket where we invite others who maybe are interested or do a little bit of locking or whatever your history is with it. We have a place for you too. And so, Tosh, you got to judge and be the guest speaker and do the workshops. But I wanted to ask about how your experience was doing
Okay.
Get Lifted, because I know you've judged and been to so many events, and I feel like, well, for us on the staff, we really walked away thinking like this was really something special. And
Right.
not to try to paint it that way for you, but I would love to
I
hear your thoughts
was.
on it.
It was. I came out of it really inspired, and like I remember I came back to Montreal and said to Lock Unity, we need to get to New York more often, because the creativity was on fleek. The like for me, it had been forever since I sat and watched people that are supposed to be not like, generalists, like you said, like there is general. And I was like, wait, that's way better than me right now. Like I felt like they were tapping into the essence of dawn because of the freedom that they had. Also because,
Mhm.
of course, you have Alain, who's like their sensei, who's telling them being free, like, like they can go to him. But there is this like on both sides, and even for yourself, like just the the beauty of just being together for the love of things. First and foremost, I think that everybody was shocked to find out how many actual Campbell lockers, okay, we some people say lockers, were in New York at the time. We're like, where did all these people come from? You know, it was really weird. I was like, some people were just like sent by their teachers from different countries, like the word came through. And I'm just like sitting there and in awe of what I'm seeing, right? I'm like, plus I'm like, it's not fair, little B, you're way too advanced, because, you have more years. But then having all of the people that were there because their dream was to dance with little B, the exchange. Other people were there to dance with Alain. Other people were there because Omar was like supposedly gonna be there. So they were like coming to check if he's really if he's back, And I think that it was just, like a big, gumbo soup of a whole bunch of good ingredients that made it successful. And the seminars and the questions and every guest that you guys handpicked were of the same kinship, like the same, we're kindred spirit almost, right? So it kind of had this free flow of energy. And it was not like I didn't feel like I was judging. Like it was hard. I was like, I don't want to pick. I really don't want to pick right now. Like they're all good, right? They're all bringing what Don wants them to bring us, that they're all, and then like they're individuals, but not as ego, I. It's like seeing Sequoia or Easy Lock, or like the styles, the way they were all different. And I'm looking at them like, wait, what is happening? What you mean you've been locking for what? Like barely a year? Or like I was in shock. I was like, I wish that I had that. I would like, not, I'm glad that I did. I would do it all over again. But if I knew all this information that they have today, when you go to a Get Lifted and you get all the best information, the right information from the get-go, how beautiful are going to be those trees in the future? How tasty are going to be those fruits, right? Like I cannot even like see any other event now and go like it's like sitting at an event going like, oh gosh, you know, like I have to judge apples versus oranges. I keep saying, but I want mangoes, like that's, I've always said that, like I want the exotic fruit. I want, like I want different types of fruits, so I can't compare them. I think Dawn always wanted that. That's what Get Lifted provides. That's, and I think if anybody is watching this, you better go to the next Get Lifted because,
I'll
Yeah,
say
and
this.
go ahead.
I'll say this. That's why I do not call you a judge. I called you a guide. And that's why your name as a
yeah,
workshop is not teacher, it's nurturer. So it could
yeah,
take the burden of judging. It could take the burden of being a teacher.
that's
That's
so,
why
thank you for that.
renaming things is so important to me,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
hate, and people know I don't like judging. I really
Mhm.
don't. Because who are we to judge? It's such a, the term is, it's already
Mhm.
old. Let's find better words, deeper words for what we do. And I mean, it's not that we're gonna change the whole wheel. Some people could like, there's still battles and competitions and, you know, but meaning making means things that align with how we think and how we live our life. I want to be part
Mhm.
of more things like that so that I don't feel like I'm always on a judging block. Even because the judge gets judged, it's a never ending cycle. It's a very toxic cycle. It's very toxic, right? Because, like we just said in Montreal, and that's a big conversation that we had, is like, why are we as elders still need to do judge demos? It's like against our body to actually do a judge demo. You can actually injure yourself doing a judge demo because you know that they're looking for you to do the best that you can, and we want to give the best. So I'm looking at people like my elders, and I'm like, oh, that's dangerous because that one demo can change the rest of, they can stop teaching. I've seen some of them get injured. I've been injured doing these demos, right? And so we dance with more wisdom and we start doing a two-step and people start judging the two-step, which is right. We're like, okay, like it's becoming performative instead of like what we love doing,
Mhm.
right? And when it becomes performative, other people start performing. It's not the real, from the heart. I'm enjoying myself. It's like, this is what I think you want me to show you. It's not you anymore, right? So I think these are
Mhm.
the big conversations that we need to have.
Yeah. And that's why I said it's up to you.
Hmm.
Your spirit tells you to dance with us, for us, then you do whatever you need to share with us. You've already shared.
Yes.
So it is
You're welcome.
not.
If the music is great, if the soil is good, you can't stop us from dancing, right? We're gonna have that moment
I
where
mean,
we're
you're
gonna
dancing
dance.
all night.
Right? We'll dance all night, non-stop. Do the two-step for 5 hours, right? But the thing is that, all that requires people of the same mind and the same heart. We're all like understanding that there's a time for everything. And this is what needs to be, out there more, as like bring back the jams.
Yes, 100%.
That's why I love this party in Philly.
Yes.
Although I
Yeah.
haven't been there, because we need to go there though. I'm
Yeah.
definitely.
Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to quickly segue, speak more about Get Lifted, we have Get Lifted Bay Area coming up in December. And I know I was the battle guest before, but now I am alongside Hurricane and the others to be on staff, and we're bringing it to the Bay Area. It's a little Christmas gift for you all, and I think this is my first place to really announce it. But we have Tosh coming again as the guide and nurturer for the weekend, because right now we feel like you are still the best person that is pushing the message of Campbell Lock experience, and we still truly trust you to be our guide, and it's gonna be very fun to have you back in the Bay Area. Same with
Oh my
Hurricane,
God.
and Firelock will be there. As crazy that is to think, my Christmas gift to myself is that he's staying for Christmas.
That's amazing. Good. That's a good twist. Mm.
Yeah, that's my little. Oh yeah, yeah, Gladys. There's a lot of people getting excited for it. So December 20th weekend. Well, it's a three day event. Same thing. The first day we're going to have the guest speakers. The second day we have the exchanges, and the third day we will have the workshop guided by our nurturer Tosh. And if time permits, we would love to also have an unorthodox workshop,
Mhm.
because I think it'd be crazy for everyone to see us three get together and you'll want to say you're going to be students in our class. We're like the worst together. I mean, Tosh saw us. It was our first time being students at Las
I
Vegas locking camp, and we were like the troublemakers.
was
Uh,
laughing. I was looking at Brian going, well, he's about to get injured. He was so excited. He was sliding all over the place, doing half splits. I was like, one, I was counting the countdown 10, 9. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. You guys, but you really, I still remember as one of the best ever when you guys did that performance for Dawn. Like just to see Dawn smile. Like we're going back there, like remembering this is what, you know, Dawn wanted and then seeing it and finally for you guys to bring that energy back to get lifted and I think that that's why Dawn chose you guys, right? There is a reason, and it's like we keep sharing. I know that I was hosting, like I say, guiding the energy at the time, and it was not easy, but having you there showing this is what it's supposed to be when it was a time where there's a lot of resistance, right? But Dawn just, and I still have the footage. There's so much footage about Dawn that I still have, that we still have. And every time I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, here's the truth. We had it under our nose the whole time. Like, so hopefully like people can really like take your workshops and like just because you're all so different and this is the beauty. That's what Dawn wants. We're all different. So it doesn't have to be like my workshop. It should be our workshops, like our things. Like we all can like I can't teach handbone for my life. I'd be like,
this
I'll be like, fire, like Omar, let's go, your turn.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I plan on doing too.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like also to put it out there, we formally invited Tosh to also be able to say that she is part of Unorthodox, because it's very, very big for us that you represent the same family. It's huge for us because we all consider you like our mentor and just a
Yeah.
really great friend. We trust you so much.
Mhm.
I am super grateful for all of you and for the invitation because seriously, I was always looked at unorthodox as, you know, like there's only a few people that don't have this, I don't know how to say. Like a lot of people have, their identity, but not many people know why they have their identity. It's like You can be like, I'm unique and I dance this way and I dance that way, but you guys were always, when you meet your kindred spirit and you meet your or somebody that's cut from the same wood, it just meshes. And you guys naturally gravitated towards each other. I was already out of the game, kind of like, I don't battle, I don't do this, but I like to set the tone. I like to, bring people together. So for me, like, if I can, have a little part in your family, in our family, then I'm just blessed beyond measure, because to have, sometimes we're considered like older, and I know I'm not old, but we're older, right? We've been there before. We've battled a long time ago. A lot of the elders are not considered by the new generation. And then some of us, like, when we express like, I want to be part of your team, it's actually because I think there's two ways. Like, the new generation now always inviting because they're afraid that they're looking at us like but I'm like, no, my brain still thinks like a 20-year-old, you know. Like when I dance. So for me to vibe with you guys and be with an orthodox, it's like uh elongating my lifeline of as a dancer, right? Because I'm like, now I'm closer to the older me, the younger me, even though it's still there inside. So it's always like like a gift when an elder, or like somebody older, even if it's like 5, 10, 6 years, 10 years older, is invited to the table. It's a gift, and it serves two ways, not just you, it serves me. It's like helps me feel relevant also, but not relevant in the sense of like, I'm not relevant. I know I am, but I have things that I need to share, and there's things that I can only learn through you all. Like I said, my voice doesn't reach the same way your voices reach. I reach, but I don't travel as much as Alain. I don't do, I don't connect with the young generation as much as Alain, but I can, but I don't, because my responsibilities, right? So sometimes we have to kind of pull back, zoom out, like he says. I have children, I have grandchildren. My energy is spread out. So to be invited is always a way in. If not, I'll keep spreading out wherever people need me, which is my family. So you are all of my family too. So I really appreciate and I love you guys from the bottom of my heart.
Love you too, Tosh. Thank you. Um, I would like to get into one final topic because I think it would do injustice to not mention Tosh's other extended family and project that you guys just did, which was Jote, Jack of all
Yes,
trades in Montreal. Like, I've only seen little clips here and there. We invited Scramble to also be on the podcast to talk about it. But we'd love to hear from you because it looked like such a beautiful event, a beautiful tribute to Dawn. And
it was.
if you could share with us, because I know that you choreographed
Yeah.
that whole piece with
Mhm.
a lot of the, was it Canadian lockers, right? Because you had like most of Montreal, and then you had
Yeah.
Sun, right?
No,
Oh, you didn't have
actually,
Sun.
came to see this. He came to see the performance, and he came to for the week, and he watched. And I also, there's a few people that just came to watch, but
Oh,
I
okay.
had Lock Unity. The goal. I remember when I was at Get Lifted, I was like, Alain and Omar, please come and be part of the piece. Because I had big, like, my dreams, the way I, like, when you know him as Monster Pop, but Haya asked me with Ross to be part of the jolt and create a piece for locking for the windows. I already knew they did popping before and they did crumping, but the moment they said they invited me, it was over like a Google meet. And the moment they said it, first thing that said, I want to do a tribute for Dawn. It was like I didn't even have, like, it was in the moment. I know what I'm gonna do because I said yes. I say I'm gonna do a tribute for Dawn Campbell, Campbell Lock. And the moment I said that, it's like the universe conspired to make it happen the way I envisioned it. I
Mhm.
knew this song. I remember like in within 3 hours that night, I figured out all the songs, all the concepts, the theme, the this. I put it all in my head. And I remember coming to New York and going, I wish I could have you guys perform at this thing. But for me, I didn't have enough budget to pay for everyone and flying people. So hopefully we can one day do it again. But this whole joke, it's almost like Dawn was speaking to me, like as I'm doing this creation. And one of the my student was like, I do animation. I would like to contribute. And then I was like, oh, like she's in my class. So I'm like, but I can't afford you. Like, but yes, please. And then she started working on footage and animating footage and, making it the Campbell lock. And I'm just literally creating this thing, having the ideas. But it's, when you're a choreographer, people think you're a choreographer. I'm more of like an orchestrator. I see all the pieces, right? But the dance, I don't choreograph because I want every person that's in that, in that piece to shine with what they're good at. So I already knew, okay, you guys are going to do that thing that I seen you do. At that part, you guys are going to create something that's more feminine because you guys are the girl there. I want something with a different energy. You created. So it was more of a collaboration, right? Than me just choreographing every single little step because that's not what locking is, right? The Campbell lock is the essence of who are these people that I'm working with. This is lock unity mainly. And when I know their strength. I've known them for a long time. I know what Trek can do. I know what Scramble can do. I know what Boom Beast can do. So for me, and I knew that Dizzy is the closest thing to Dawn in terms of emulating Don in the way that I wanted him to. Like, I want you to study. And that was the only thing I said, Dizzy Lock, you're going to study Don and give me Don, right? Just like all his mannerism, all his things. And then, I had Don in heaven and I had, because it was a high building, it was very limited. It was full of limitation, but in the end, it worked because it was the essence. It was Dawn speaking into the space that we were building together. And the result, I hope we have footage. But even the dancers that took part of it could not figure it out until the first show. They didn't understand what I was trying to create at the beginning because I have a choice in music, a choice of this weird choice in music, but the way I orchestrate things, it's always like for the bigger picture. This is about done. So many times I had to speak, listen, this is the work. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about how we're great dancers. It's about the work. It's about Don's story. It's about giving back to Don. It's also about educating the passersby that are passing in the street. Uh, who is this man that we're celebrating? So the video was playing in the hall at the same time as the performance with his website going with a QR code. Like I had like all these little pieces of the puzzle all integrated into this 3-day event, 15 minutes every show. And in the end, my goal was to educate about the creator of this dance and what he's done for us and also celebrate him. So every person was dressed in one of his fits from his history of all the t-shirt colors. So they all had, each dancer was wearing one of the fits. Each dancer was a part of Dawn on Soul Train, Dawn at Carol Burnett, the colors that he wore on this, like the different shows that he's done, right? So I think that for the public that don't know, they don't know, but for the people that knew, they were like, "Oh my God, like this is amazing. This is great." So I know that hopefully one day my idea was I want to do an hour piece. That was like the big thing. Like I wish I could do a real whole production just about done. But maybe it won't be me. Maybe it'll be one of you, But I really want to thank Lock Unity for like just trusting me and letting me play orchestrator, because it was a very hard, quick. We did it in 5 rehearsals, 4 hours each rehearsal, like, and then the space was 31-inch where they danced. So when you put your finger up, you're touching the window. There's no space. So every movement had to be sideways. So it was only Dawn's movement, all of the, essence of Dawn. So it was very difficult in a place that's very hot, like sauna like, and they can't hear the crowd. They can only hear behind the windows themselves and my voice. It was really a challenge, but we did it. And I hope that we can share with you when it's like all put together, the footage. But if it's not, um, I want to say that it was probably the greatest work we've ever done in a sense of for Dawn, for us. I was proud of it, and it was gone as soon as we finished. Like it was it was like we don't have it anymore. It's sad, it's like the past already.
Well, thank you
But
for
yeah,
sharing. It
yeah,
looked like
no,
such a beautiful piece. So once you have footage, please share it with us, and we'll be sharing it
yeah.
too because it just looks wonderful.
Every day was
Mhm.
different too, because they were freestyling half the time, but we had like it was so amazing to give them the freedom to just do these parts together, but everything else just have fun. And that was the thing that I said every show. Just have fun. I don't care if you make a mistake. Just have fun.
Mhm.
It's not about perfection. It's about honoring, reminding yourselves that why we love this dance so much. And then the crowd could feel it, even though it was on the the third and fourth floor of a big building. It was really high. And the crowd was telling me it's one of the best shows they've seen there in all the shows, because there was a theme, there was a story, and it was mainly about, for me, it was mainly about bringing Dawn back from heaven, seeing the kids, animating the kids, coming back to dance with us, dancing with the kids, and then going back. But we put the cape back. We give him his
Mhm.
hat. He's dressed in white. He's all like, it was very, very, but all the songs that I picked too was a tribute to him, about crossing the tracks. I used that song, or about, going back to his woman, like every show that he did, he was always anxious to go back home. We know this. Every time he came to the camp, he couldn't wait to get back home. He couldn't wait to get back to Marianne. So it was all of these little pieces of the puzzle that really worked. And I made the soundtrack too. Like, so yeah, it was but I wish I could do it bigger, do it again, you know.
Well, hopefully someone's listening that'll help that become a bigger,
Yeah,
better reality because that would be
yeah.
beautiful.
Everybody's gonna be, all of you is gonna be in it.
I would love
With
that.
Love
a
it.
real orchestra. You know?
Especially now that we have. Oh, I didn't have to tell you, Tosh, but even speaking to Omar recently, he really has the bug again to want to be as deep as he can. Like he's your workshop and your guidance at Get Lifted was so critical to that. I like to believe, me and Hurricane too, but he's going to look to you.
Yeah, for me, I've always known him. It's like you guys. It's just like the reset, I've had that same reset. We need to pull back to better start again. And sometimes you just need a little bit of like, take care of what matters when it comes to family, and just so that you can go out again without the pressure of like having to extend yourself in all the different ways, and as I'm 53 now, I keep telling people, when I turned 50, it was a reset. Like I was like 20 again. It was weird. My, like, literally, there is no age, there is no like ending. It always is something that we can keep going, and even if you stop for 5 years, it's not the end of the world. You always come back strong, and I'm the proof. And not just me, there's many elders that are the proof of that. Is that if we're well surrounded by people that love us and supportive, like you guys are with me, like if it wasn't for spite, it was if Spicy didn't exist for Bus to move, I would have been like, I would have stopped too. And she kept bringing me back to come, just like you guys keep bringing me back. I was doing that for Don, right? I kept bringing him back. No, come to the camp, come to HHI, come to here, come to that. And you guys did that too for Don. So this is something that the young generation are going to do for you also, for Little B, for Hurricane, for Firelock. They remember you. They want you out there, right? They're begging. So seeing you in the proximity, and Kaistar, we haven't forgotten about you because I know you also know lots of things. You can teach a lot of things, right? You can tell stories, you've read things. We all are important. Like there's not one person that's more important than the other. We all have
Actually,
a
like
role.
to spin this back to get lifted, I actually had a question for you, Tosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say out of two options here for Kai Star,
Mm,
would you
yeah.
want him to DJ get lifted, or would you want him to be in the battles?
I mean, w- it depends what he wants to do. What moves your heart, Kaistar?
I I'm gonna actually foot this over to Elaine really quick because I also want to hear what you have to say about this. And then I'll share what how I feel about things.
Well, I'll say this: we can always have two DJs, and one can dance because we do have a primary and you know, and a general. And so what I'm saying is that you can still do what you love. And the thing about love is that it's unlimited.
Because I
Yeah.
still and the reason why I ask is because there's a lot where I still feel the burden, the anxiety, the all of the things that come with being in this space and seeing the consequences over the years. And I still and I it there is still the fear, there is still the anxiety, all the things that led me to want to quit, you know, and a big part of the reason why I'm doing something like this is because of Brian, because
Mm,
Brian said that he wants me to be here. Um, and so, like I said, you want to know what? I trust you.
mm,
I want you to make whatever decision you want as far as how you would like me to participate. Um, so I think there, at least for myself, I can't really say like one way or the other because I want to trust in you guys essentially. Um, I don't know what my role is these days.
Then I will
And
go with Alan's thought of you are a person with multi skills, and maybe you can
mm,
do a little bit of everything. And one of the reasons I have pushed for you to be in this space as a provider and a teacher and also a nurturer because you have so much knowledge and care and passion in your own way. And Tosh, every time we talk, she's always says, Kaistar has a lot to offer. And I'm like, I agree with you. And this is my
yeah.
way of being like, yeah, he does.
Mm,
And like I always
I'm
say,
gonna
like Alan and Kaistar, you guys actually view concepts of the dance community very similarly. It's just that you both have very different ways of approaching it. And I'm like, they're both very needed. And Tosh has always called me a bit of the glue. So I'm like,
mm,
okay, let me be the glue to like
mm,
help people play their part when maybe fear or anxiety stop you. Let me try to be the belief and faith that you have so much to offer. And the same thing
I'll
for
say
like
this.
Alan. This is why Get Lifted is so important to me. I'm like, I got you. I'll take some of the burden off of Gianna a little bit. But go ahead, man.
I'll say this, right? Get lifted is literally what it is. The name get lifted is to lift us up, is to lift you up, is to do that. That's why the name is get lifted. It's all intentional. And so like it'll be I'm gonna ask him about his experience at Handshake
Mm.
because he had just came from get lifted.
Not one
Mm.
person shook my hand.
Oh man.
If I'm gonna talk about, the event is about the name, nah, not one person shook my hand.
Funny.
But at Get
So
Lifted, my small ass got lifted, you know?
That's hilarious.
it's like nothing get lifted is here because the only thing that affected me and my journey of dance, my cat is screaming outside if you can hear it. And the only thing,
Yeah.
like the only the only thing that actually affected me is to see that happen, is
Mm.
to see people's love diminished.
Mm.
That hurts so much.
Mm.
And that's the only thing I couldn't avoid.
Mm.
I avoided. Not even avoid, I just didn't. I chose not to let anything bother me at all. So I guess I can use the word avoid. I avoided everything that would have strayed me away from loving this dance, loving dance in general.
Mhm.
You know, I that's all so get lifted is literally I can't talk about love. I can't talk about I can talk about it. I can share with you all the things that I've done to help me not get caught up in so many things in this
Mm.
world, in these people, because it's not the dance that's hurting us, it's the people that's hurting us. Dance has never hurt me in my entire life, but maybe people's ego has tried to affect me. And
Mm.
that's why I couldn't avoid seeing people's love diminish
Mm.
because their dance was being hurt.
Yeah.
Their dance was being hurt, which caused them to be hurt. So Get Lifted is here to bring healing. And that's why maybe I will end up having one judge forever as long as she says yes. Because if you're and again, sorry for saying judge, guide, I'm still correcting my language.
Mm-hmm. We
That's
are.
why like little B and Gianna is like, just call it battle because nobody's gonna know what's happening. And I said, no.
Me too. Yeah.
you
But
know?
everything is about making meaning. You have a meaning. So we're makers of meaning. So when you say get lifted, it has a deeper meaning. It
Mhm,
means something. The thing that people are doing is like, let's say handshake, right? They don't understand what they name their events. So if you don't even know what the name of your event means, and this is what's happening with the dance overall, you don't know what it means anymore. So you're branding things, judging this, battle, handshake, like whatever. I can name a whole bunch of other events that the name means nothing. You're not authentic to the name because you just think it's cool. It's a cool. So
mhm,
there's no education right there. Handshake. What does that mean to do a to do a handshake? It's part of locking. It's part of the Campbell lock experience, right? To have do this and know what that means when you do this.
mhm,
You don't have to write it up. So yes, get lifted literally made me feel like I was getting lifted that at that
mhm,
event. And everybody in that event was lifted. Like, and this is what people need to reorient themselves, is like, you want to create an event, a jam or something. Well, what's the meaning? Why are you doing it? How are you doing it? Ask yourself some real deep questions. Is it for you and for your own agenda or for you to shine, or is it really for your community? That's the key.
Mhm.
Is it for the community? Who are you serving? Yourself or the community? Most of the events that I've been through too, half the time they say they serve the community, but it's not for the community.
You know, and that's why, like, I say this, I can tell you about it, but you won't know until you experience it.
Mm, absolutely.
So let's experience not being judgmental to ourselves so other people's judgment won't affect you.
Absolutely.
You know, I understand you felt like quitting, but you never quit.
Mm.
You did your best to stay around it. You're a freaking DJ, for God's sake. Like, you're DJing these things. So what did you say? You quit? I've never seen you quit ever, ever. I've never seen a time you quit. You've never quit, you know? Now here you are with a podcast. Is this a person who quit? That
No.
makes no sense to me. You know? You never quit. You just transmuted what you love. You took care of it. You nurtured it. Actually,
Yeah.
you did the time to take, and you play good music. There's not have been a time where I'm at a gym and you're playing. It hasn't been amazing ass music. You got me dancing. So this is the love that you have for this thing. You've never quit.
Mm-hmm.
You nurtured it a different way. I dancing because I love this freedom of dancing. You know, I love the freedom of writing. Now I'm writing more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? Once love happened, you found a way to transmute your love to DJing. You realize I didn't have to dance in front of these people, but I guarantee you, you are dancing while you're DJing. But I guarantee you, you are dancing in this jam because I have danced with you in these jams. You didn't battle, but I guarantee you, I had a great round with you because y'all was like, damn, Guy Star's nice, you know? But we're not seeing that in the battles, but
Yeah.
because everybody think they have to battle.
Yeah. People
I
don't know.
literally go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
They don't know about Casper. He's been there longer than most people, having conversation with me since like the early, like since even like when we were both at Greg's, I remember one of our first conversation. I was at Greg's funeral, remember? And we were always in passing, and after that we had another conversation in SF in the Bay. And every conversation, I would talk to Kaistar and be like, this guy knows a lot of things that I know too, but now he knows that extra layer
Mhm,
that I didn't know because I wasn't there in LA at that time when he's taking all these classes. So
mhm,
he has like when I say everybody has their expertise, Kaisar has his own expertise and people have no idea. If you sit with him, he will teach you so many things and remind you about things. Just like
mhm,
yesterday when you're like, oh, I'm reading this book and this part and this part, I'm like, which book? It's like it's important because this is the only way we grow. It's like I know thing, I share it. He knows a thing, he share. There is no like hogging of knowledge with Kaistar or any of you, anyways. Like, and that's one thing that people do. They hog knowledge, right?
oh my days.
And the thing is that we just share. And Kaistar has always been a sharer. And
Mhm,
for me, I want people to kind of get a taste of like, okay, you get to know Kaistar type of thing. He's an amazing DJ. Whatever role he chooses to play, he can do it all. Do it all, right?
just understand, like, Get Lifted is here for the healing,
Yeah.
for the healing of the community, period. So whoever hasn't battled in a long time, or exchange, that's why I call it exchange. I want to keep the weight off of this thing that we are doing together, because my love for dance happened in the ciphers. That's why I said house dance conference, everybody was ciphering or not, they were just dancing around. And then just so happened to be in a battle and house dance conference. I fell in love with the thing that was happening. It just
Mm,
later there was a battle, and I was like, oh, there's battles too. I can just hop in here, you know. So it made my way of finding out who dance is there's many ways to express it. And what happened with battles is eyes was on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to conquer that. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted to conquer. Why do I want to look like this? Why do I want to win? Why do I want to? I wanted to conquer those things so I can detach from it. So what I was doing from battles is literally destroying the fact that I wanted to be a champion.
Yeah.
That's why I was scared to win because I knew the responsibilities that comes with winning. And
Mm.
once I stopped wanting to be a champion, I became one. So it
That's
didn't matter if I win or lose.
it's
I
such a
am a champion. Go ahead.
I guess you just reminded by you saying that, you just reminded that's the thing that we forget. The more we battle or the more we are put in those contexts, we forget the source of why we love to dance sometimes, you know? And it's more like it becomes more about winning than about the experience of dancing. Doing Jote, it reminded every single one of us, in Montreal that the like it filled us up even more to do this show together, coming together, rehearsing together, eating together, going after, like, just not battling, just doing this thing, creating something together. And then you realize, oh, here's the love I have of the Campbell Lock. There's the love. We're all like stressed because we want to do well, because we know something is at stake, something bigger than us, right? When you battle, it's only for the prize, for you showing the world, look at me, I won. Really? But then you surpassed that. You were like, okay, I just want to conquer myself. Like, I just want to be a dancer. I just want to have fun. I just want to dance, right? Whereas most people, I want to beat the other person. But when we come together for a bigger purpose, like doing Get Lifted together, it's not about one of us personally. It's about all of us doing something with everyone else, right? So it has more
My
meaning.
inspiration is love. I
Yeah,
I need it's like I'm not even asking. I need y'all to see the love that never left.
yeah,
That's why I
yeah,
get lifted here.
yeah,
I know you think your love was taken away, but it never was because look at what you did. You
yeah,
had a whole new skills and you're a researcher and you're DJing these events and you're making people move beautifully.
yeah, yeah,
You've never quit, bruh. You know? So that's why Get Lifted is here. And that's why I don't know anyone else with the kind of nurturing, loving, and that
mm-hmm,
does the work intentionally like
mm-hmm,
Tosh. I can't tell you I do because I don't know. If I knew, I would have asked him to judge, to
mm-hmm.
guide.
To
I'm still
guide,
correcting my
to judge,
language. You know? I'm still correcting my language. So
or
once that person is born or somebody is somewhere is doing the work, that's
Yeah,
been
we
in the scene for a very long time,
that's my
then
intention
it's
too.
Tosh.
Like we're gonna
And
keep
I'm
throwing
not,
this event.
I'm organizer. I'm not judging. I'm
Yeah.
not guiding, because the experience is there for you to have. I don't want to have a hand on your experience because then it becomes about Hurricane.
mm,
Let me provide the space and let me provide the concept of the experience.
yeah,
That's why we're doing this. We're gonna continue throwing
So
this event. We have a lot of passion for it now. There's a lot of
here,
momentum and fuel.
have your experiences.
And exactly like what Alan was saying, as soon as there is someone else, we'll try to take that responsibility off of Tosh. But right now, we really, really need you because it's just
Sorry.
it's just that important. Like we never really had to talk about anything. I know, like it just aligns that we
mm,
create the space and you're able to guide. And I will later talk to Alan about like you need to also be in the space because
mm,
as more people see that you have fun in the space that you create, it helps
yeah,
other organizers know too that they can do
mm-hmm,
the same. We are here to create a fun environment for all of us. It's
yeah.
not just about the work that we can work hard and enjoy hard, right?
But sometimes I understand, like, I know how Alain is and how he feels because as I'm doing the joke choreography and the orchestrating, I'm having the time of my life not being part, not being in the dance. I'm just watching. I'm like, yay, like like you guys dance, like, and it was, as an observer, sometimes you really feel good, right? You're just like, here's something that I've helped, you know, and I get it. But yes, you are needed, Alain, too. Like you need to, and I think that the students that you have that I've never met that came to get lifted and that danced with little B, I was like, wow, like this is when right? This is a healthy community because there's people that I've never seen dance before, literally like took my breath away, right? And we're all part of this bigger purpose. And there'll be people that will step for me eventually. I think we're, showing the way, we're guiding the way, and then there's more and more ladies. We need women to step up to the plate, also to be included, because we need that balance of feminine and masculine energy in the spaces. That's important. But for me to be who I am now, I had to tap in my masculine energy a lot, and I needed to. And for men to be in the space that Alain is, and Little B, and you have to tap in that feminine energy, like it's not like people don't realize that you need to balance all aspects of yourself, because if not, we crumble under the pressure, or under the weight of, like, I'm supposed to be strong and I can't be emotional, or like we've been through it, and this is why we can guide well, is because we've been there and went through, like, the healing, and we're still healing. And you can't heal others if you're not healed yourself, right? And I think
Yeah.
that that's the work that we're all doing right now.
I'm at this little crossroad because I know we're at a very long time for the live stream, and I know we should probably cut out because we'll talk forever. But you
Yeah.
also touched upon a question that I wanted to bring to you, because I think that I really rely on you for these types of questions. And if we do have the time for it, to quickly go over, at least to know that we acknowledge the question, and for Tosh to hear it. And this is from Christina in the
Mhm.
Philippines. She had actually written into the Discord a couple of weeks ago. It was more or less a general question, where she was saying, "I wonder if there's a more feminine approach to locking that's as funky as the masculine approach." I'm not sure if it makes sense, but it's something that she was asking about, and it did get a lot of us thinking. Because I thought something similar too, watching a lot of SDF this year. Of my take on it, just in general, is that I see even guys trying to be extra masculine,
Mm,
and I say trying to be strong,
mhm.
and that doesn't mean masculine itself, but just
Yeah.
trying, as opposed to maybe being or living, right? But I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you your thoughts on that, because I feel like it is a little bit more difficult for me to speak on the feminine aspect and approach, especially when Christina is asking about it.
I think you nailed it just now. You said just be yourself, being. You don't force to, you know, uh, for me, like because I've been to the extremes of, our teacher says you have to have power, you have to be strong, you have to do. And as I'm doing that and listening to that, I'm losing a little bit of myself every time, right? And I'm portraying something that they want, they say is closer to what quote unquote locking was at the time with the power, but it was really making me, giving me limitations to approach the Campbell lock the way Don would want it to be. And Christina, like, I know if she's there, if she watches it later, and I know it's late in Australia, she has a feminine energy already. She's already It's like there's nothing that you need to add. It's like sometimes I'd get frustrated when I'd hear male judges, because they were judged, and they were like, "Oh, but you got to move your hips more to women." And I was like, "What? What do you mean? She already has hips." Like because, like they it's like you cannot tell somebody, how to move more their hips because that would make them look more feminine. That's like the worst thing you could say. It's like she already has hips. It's like telling a girl to be more girl or telling a guy to be more guy. Like, no, let them be who they are. So, first and foremost, to be true to your femininity, right? You have to like already in your real life know, are you okay with yourself as a woman? Are you a nurturer? Are you a provider? Are you, enjoying dancing without having to add extra layers of, power because this technique or this thing that you're being taught is being required? I tapped into my essence as Tash. I don't care if I'm like the best or the worst Campbell Locker. I know that every time I step on the stage, I'm Tash. I'm Natasha. I'm that little girl. Everything I've learned from the moment I'm born, every Soul Train episode that I watched, every movie that I've seen, every show that it has to, it's in me. It's gonna come out somehow. I trust that my body is intelligent enough to tap in. And that's the key. Is your body is an intelligent, it's like a machine. It's like the music, the right music. Somebody like Kaistar was going to play a song, and I remember that happened, right? And you played my Judge Demo song, and I was like, oh gosh, because I know that song so well. I know it, like it was like, how does he know that I like this song? You know, but I know it so well that it played with my brain. But it's like that thing where my body is just going with that song. So my body decides that song does not make me want to lock right now or Campbell lock because this is like party dance song that I partied with. So I'm gonna start doing the Running Man. So my body will decide for me. So as a woman, your body's going to decide how to move. Your hips are going to decide how to move. Your shoulder, like everything. So if your like mind gets in the way of that and you don't you instead of letting yourself breathe and letting your dance breathe, you're giving it like commands. No, the music gives you the command, not your mind. So if it needs to be feminine, is because the music brings the femininity out of you. If it needs to be more masculine, it's because the music is like crazy, like you might have to get into your more masculine side. And that's what people are missing. They're trying to reinvent, and that's why I call it performative locking or the Campbell lock. Performative. It's not the real thing. You're performing what you think you need to do, to prove to me you're a good Campbell locker or a good dancer. And I'm like, nah, you're lying to yourself. The music is saying something else. This is how do you say, a nice, you're painting over something that's real already by giving
Mm.
extra layers that we don't need to see those layers. Just show me who you are. So that's what I enjoy when I see Alain. He's who he is. When I see Little B, it's who you are. When I see Firelock, Omar, I'm like, that's who he is. Every single person that I see that's never wavered from their authentic self, they still dance the same and they still tap into the same energy, but they always transcend the dance. They always get better. They're always like they levitate, like literally they get lifted into other spaces, right? So just trust yourself. Like Christina, women just have to trust that they have something that's very pure and very uh singularly themselves and their own, that only women, just like men have their own thing. I've never seen like when I see Alain dancing with women, automatically the way he dances change because he molds into that energy and the woman also changes, and that's what's supposed to happen. It's like we now become a unit, right? So if I dance with Dawn, I would be like emulating or feeling like taking my cues from Dawn. I'm not trying to overbear, the art form or the creator or the person I'm dancing with. It's about conversations. It's about communication. People just want to scream and shout their dance, right? And all I'm saying is like, nah, you're not listening. You're not listening. Like, what is your soul telling you to do right now? And I think that that's what it is. It's like it doesn't have to be about being feminine. It's about being you.
Thank you for sharing that, Tosh. I trust you to be the voice for that because at this point I am uncomfortable speaking it that way, even though I believe and speak the same truth. I
Yeah,
believe I really rely on you for that. So thank you for speaking on it.
my pleasure.
Yeah,
Pleasure. It's not easy for women because we've been taught to be more like men in that dance for 3 decades. From the moment I started learning, I was told to be powerful, to be this. And I still have some of these remnants where I'm still gonna like add the power because your body is so intelligent that it doesn't let you forget what you've trained and learned and repeated over time. It's hard to erase 20, 30 years from what you've learned. Because your body is used to doing it, right? So just like we have a hard time saying the Kemba lock all the time now, when we're going to keep slipping into locking and saying locking, we have to correct ourselves every single time. It takes time, right? So let's be graceful to each other.
thank you. We should probably wrap up soon, so I wanted to offer it to Elaine if you have any closing thoughts.
Closing thought is, let's do this collectively. This
Mm-hmm,
is not about me.
mm-hmm,
Like, it's never been about me. I'm just here to dance, man. Like, it's not that I don't want to do this. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be saying these things. I don't want to have to. But when I see people's love being diminished, that's when I step in,
mm,
because I love this too. And I know how it feels to love something. And so when I see other people's loves being diminished because of other people's ego, that's when I'm like, okay, I don't care now. I'm talking. And at the same time, I pay attention to myself because I don't want to cause any more harms that's already been had. I'm trying to stay away from the harm. But I know everything I say is not gonna be taken as harmless,
mm,
you know, because not everybody understands my language.
mm,
That's why I do ask B for help. That's why I will ask Kaisar for help. And that's why I do ask my friends for help that understands writing more than I do. English is not my first or second language, you know? So I'm still here growing, and plus I'm speaking culturally where there's a lot of slang, where there's a lot of metaphors, where there's not everybody's gonna understand that.
mm,
I've learned English from Black people, Black Americans. I'm Haitian,
mm,
still a Black man in America. Again, I'm gonna say this, I'm a guest to this culture.
mm,
That's why I can speak on guests of the culture, because I am a guest to this culture too. So I know when we're fucking up, us
mm.
guesses,
Yeah.
So that's why I can speak on it. I was raised in the house, though, fortunately for me. I was raised in the house. So I understand how to respect the house that is not mine.
Mhm.
And that's all I desire for us to do collectively, respect the house that is not ours.
Yeah.
That is all.
Thank you, man.
Get
Thank
lifted.
you.
Kai, do you have any last things before I close it out?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Cut out for a second. I think it's been a long, amazing conversation. I want to thank both of you guys for making the time and going almost 3 hours with us. I think we're about to cross over the 3 hour segment. But
Mm.
it's been a pleasure having the both of you. I would love to have you guys on another time to go over some other topics because there's so much that we can all learn from each other, and I think everyone in the chat has learned a lot. You know, keeping an eye on the chat, everyone is like is everyone loves it, and I think these are the sort of fireside conversations that Brian and I were both looking to have in the beginning, um, and I'm would love to have you guys on again to talk more.
Yeah, same. Really, thank you too for joining us. I love that this is the way that I talk to you three. This is exactly how our conversations go when we're together. It's
Yeah.
just now we have a little bit more of a platform to share in that.
Mm.
That's what also spawned Get Lifted. Like, how do we bring the conversations we have in each other's living room and show the things that we think about and talk about and what drives us and how and why we love each other in this dance is beautiful. Like, thank you so much for joining us. And just to
Thank you.
close it out, we had a message actually from Marianne, Don Campbell's wife, saying, "This is Don's
Oh.
wife and feel so blessed to hear this conversation and feeling the love. I know Don is smiling from above."
Oh.
Well, thank you, Marianne, for joining us. And thank you, everyone else, for tuning in. We're, again, we're live on YouTube, Twitch, and we're doing Instagram Live. If you're just catching us towards the end, you can rewatch the whole thing on YouTube. It's a much better experience now to rewatch it, I promise you. Thank you for the people that did it through Instagram. You guys are troopers.
Seriously.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Ellen and Tosh, for joining us. This was a beautiful conversation. Lots of important things that we got over. Next week, we have planned to have the Hoodlockers. We have Riot and Epic
Yeah.
joining us because they were part of the chat last time and they had such amazing input and insights, and we'd love to have them on. So thank you for also paving the way for them. I'm very ecstatic right now. I got very emotional through a lot of this. This was awesome. This is great. Just on a selfish little tip right now.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you, Kaistar and Little B, for like I've been watching most of your conversations, not all of them, but many of them. And I always, when I have time, like listen. So I've probably seen like more than half of the ones that you produced in the last year, the last few. And it's always a good thing to hear the doubts of, like, or even the questions and the conversations that sometimes we're not privy to hear. And just for you guys to put yourselves out there, it takes a lot of energy.
Mm.
I know the kind of energy it takes is very draining, so I really appreciate both of you for all this work and also Alain for putting yourself on the cross every single time.
I know, man.
It,
He says I want to start writing, and I start to write, and then look what happens. I
and
wake
then
up and I'm like,
Oh boy.
oh, there goes
and
my
then
week.
I think I saw Julian or in Montreal, and then when he was with you, right? And then he said, Alain, literally like at 8 a.m. and he wrote the thing. And then he told me about it and I started laughing. I said, yeah, what? I don't know what goes through Alain's brain at 8 a.m. that he's going to make a post like this and boom, and the whole world goes, you know.
Just to give some numbers, I believe we're over 2,000 likes on that post, a bunch of
Wow.
reshares,
Oh,
and
many.
even more reshares in different languages, like you mentioned, Tasha. It was translated, and
Yeah.
even our last podcast episode has 1,500 views just on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for tuning in, for wanting to be a part of the conversation, because this is not just a conversation between us. We're
Mm,
doing this here so that everyone can take part in it. We invite you guys for
absolutely.
your questions and your thoughts. we see it all, and we're doing this for you. Again, we do not do this for ourselves, except for that little selfish tip of like, this really fills me.
Like, well, and I'll pitch in as well as the other like half of the regular on the podcast, which is to say that these are all conversations that we always have in the back of our mind, or we have in between with each other, and it's all stuff that, like, it's when you actually talk about it, or when you hear somebody talking about it, it becomes very cathartic, right? And so for us to always be talking about this and being like, okay, well, we can address these situations, we can talk about things, and it doesn't have to be a singular post that everyone looks at on the internet without understanding any context. We can have the conversations. We can talk through these things. The conversations were things that we're missing for such a long time. So let's have conversations. Let's talk more.
Yeah, and even
Yeah.
just quickly to drop like future topics that you guys mentioned that we didn't really get into that I'd love to talk about with you guys is that you
Mhm.
guys had mentioned the word distortion, and we talked a
Mhm.
lot about what we feel is distortion within this dance,
Mhm.
and we talked about the responsibilities and feelings of a judge and doing a judge showcase. Like,
Mhm.
I think there are a lot of these aspects that people either don't know about because they've never been in the position, or
Mhm.
people who have but never been able to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, like, when we talk about that cathartic feeling, I think there's a lot even within this conversation that we could have other topics put out. So if anyone has any thoughts or questions of things that you would love to ask, because we will have them on again.
Mhm.
So let us know in the Discord, in the comments. We keep an eye on everything. Thank you for supporting us. It's been blessed, truly blessed. Again, please like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube and our Twitch. We have a lot of you guys watching on the Instagram. We would love to relocate to our other primary platforms because we're really pushing forward. I hope you guys think it looks more professional now. It looks great to me. I hope.
That's good.
Yeah, but yeah,
Shout out to Lockstatic for providing all of the graphics on the Twitch,
Yeah.
um, and Trouble and Katrina for all the hours and conversations and helping us figure everything out. We will continue to improve, just like we do with the dance, just like we do with our efforts to be consistent with the term Campbell lock, because I think we'll slip up along the way.
yeah.
but it is the push. It is the always wanting to get better and be better. Not
Oh, you
Oh,
Oh, he just
for
started cutting out. What a
crazy.
time for it.
our own
Yeah.
right.
mistakes, but for all. No,
Also,
oh no. Right.
Oh,
you're
you're
freezing.
good.
You're back. Yeah.
It is,
Okay.
well, I mean, like, we're at 3 hours, but I will say, just to kind of recap, what I was probably cutting out in is, we are all here for each other.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
all that counts.
All right.
And also remember to always be mindful of Don's family. It's very important, to, you know, uh, include them and, remind people that they can also reach out to them,
Yes.
to Dennis and Marianne. If Marianne is, but there's other ways, but to be honoring the family and to honor their legacy, and that to preserve this is also bigger than just us. It affects a whole family and their grandkids. Mm.
Thank you for that. All
Mhm.
right, y'all.
Thank you
Thank
for
you for
that.
joining us. I will cut it out here. This has been Let's Talk Locking. Thank you for having
Love you
all of
guys.
your attention. Love you guys.
Love all of you.